Hey there, comic book friends. I'm Travis, and it's time for another comic book roundtable. Table's a little rounder this week than last week. We have back with us after it's been at least 6 months. I was talking off air with James. It's been at least 6 months since I've been on a hangout with Mr. James Crowder. How's it going, James?
Great. Thanks for having me on, Travis. Miss doing these.
Anytime. Gonna be fun. Gonna be fun to talk some books. And of course, we have our basically becoming a regular on the show. We got Mike with us, Sergeant America. How's it going, Mike?
Excellent as always, and to be considered a regular, an honor.
Oh, well, it's an honor now. After a while, it'll be like, some rash you can't get rid of kind of a thing. So what books do we want to talk about first this week? What's just dying, people are dying to talk about? I'll tell you right now, I only have a few. I got one Marvel book, a couple DCs. Most of my books this week are basically independent books, so I got a lot of. So that's what I'll be talking most about. But I do have a little bit of everything.
I just got 3 indies, so I'm good for when we do that.
Okay, well, let's talk Marvel real quick so I can get that out of the way.
Yeah.
I don't even have any Marvel this week.
Hawkeye. I picked up Hawkeye, and I was hoping somebody else would be on the show tonight that was reading Hawkeye, so I could ask, is this the last issue? Because I've kind of heard rumors that it's done, that they kind of stealthily canceled this book, so I don't know if this is actually the last issue or not.
I heard the same thing. I was going to ask you.
And I'm not sure. I'm actually confused by the book because the last book that had the two Hawkeyes, well, the Burt brothers, our regular Hawkeye and his brother, in it, they had been what looked like killed. I mean, the older brother had been shot, and basically looked like he had been shot in the head and was, laying on the floor bleeding out, and our main character Hawkeye had been stabbed in the head with arrows into his ears, and it looked like, they're screwed up. And then we read some issues that were Kate Bishop Hawkeye, and wasn't sure when we'd get back to the story. There's been a massive delay between the last issues and this issue. This issue may actually be out of order again. This may actually be out of order because they released some out of order. I think this one might be out of order. I don't know. At any rate, they're at the doctor's office or whatever. The older brother's in a wheelchair now. It seems like he's healing. Clint can't hear. His ears have been damaged. He's deaf now. We get a little bit of flashback from him being a child and being deaf for a period of time, so he knows sign language. There's lots of sign language in this book, so if you're strong on sign language, the book makes sense. If you're not good on sign language, you may be struggling because they literally show you the hand signs for what they're saying. I'm okay at sign language, so I kind of know what was going on, but I don't know. If it's the ending, it's kind of a weird ending because it sets up they've lost everything basically, and they get the people in the building they live in to kind of all bond together, and they're going to take back what's been taken from them or something. I don't know. I like Hawkeye. I've liked this book, but this issue felt really confusing, and like we jumped to some other place, and it doesn't make the lack of continuity. I don't know if it's all because of the amount of time that went by between issues or the fact it's being told out of order, or I'm not exactly sure.
Or is it just a rushed ending? They're just trying to put something together to close it out quick.
Right. Because like I said, I just kind of heard that they were kind of stealthily canceled this book. They just Marvel kind of pulled their support on it and whatnot. Which is funny.
Weird.
Which is funny because it just won Eisner's, right? So.
And it seems like the perfect thing that they could keep continuing. I mean, like you said, 3 Hawkeyes. Clint Barton, his brother, who was the Dark Hawkeye, for a while in Dark Avengers, and Kate Bishop. I mean, this is a book that could keep going on, and it gets Eisner's. They keep using it to experiment, like the Silent Dog, like this one with Silent. There's so much they could do for this.
Yeah, and I don't. Is Matt Fraction writing anything else for Marvel right now? I can't name a title he's on anymore.
Not that I know.
Besides this, I just kind of wonder if he's kind of leaving.
Yeah. But that's where I could see him switch to a Kate Bishop or his brother have somebody else write it until Matt ever wants to return, or some other big name wants to do it.
I mean,
It seems like it could be.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know if they'd ever do that because it feels very much like Matt Fraction's book.
All right.
Are there big sales on that book? I mean, does it get good numbers?
I think it does. I mean, I think it gets okay. That's why I'm suspicious. That's why part of me kind of wonders it doesn't fit whatever Marvel wants to do. It doesn't fit with exactly what Marvel wants to do. It's a confusing book in comparison to the other Hawkeye stuff that's out there. That and, like I said, I almost wonder if Matt Fraction is, if he's quitting. I mean, if he's got all this indie stuff that he's working on, and that really is, to me, feels like where Matt Fraction should be. His strong point is not writing a traditional superhero book, or at least not in my opinion. I've not enjoyed anything that he's written superhero-wise that's just been straightforward. I like his quirky stuff. Like I liked FF. I like Hawkeye. I did not like Fantastic Four. What else have I read? Read of his. I did not like Fear Itself, that miniseries. I just haven't been real. So I just kind of wonder if he's just kind of not doing it. I don't know. I'm gonna have to ask some more people and do some more digging.
More sense.
Some more digging around because I'm just kind of confused on the
way this. When you make money off a series, the only reason you're going to cancel is if you're going to lose that talent. You know what I mean? There's no other reason.
Right.
But as a Thunderbolts fan, I'm surprised that they wouldn't do something else with it because they wrote out Thunderbolts to the death. So I can't believe they wouldn't do something more with this. Write it out till it's not worth $1.
But I really think but I think everyone sees it as being Matt Fraction, Aja book. If those two guys aren't on the book most of the time, especially Fraction, if they're not on the book, then it's not Hawkeye. It's not Hawkeye. It's not Hawkeye. It's whatever else it is.
All right.
So, I don't know. My comments just suddenly popped up here. So, hey, Scott, how's it going? Custom Rob Stars on. Logbox Review is here. Eric questions he's deaf again, so he obviously that is some part of his history that isn't new. So, Eric from Logbox Review is telling me Hawkeye number 22 is the last issue according to Fraction newsletter that he found. So that's 22, issue 22, but I don't think they're releasing more. So I guess I'm going to get more story if that's the case. So there's what, 4 or 5 more issues left. Okay, that answers that. Jen is in the comments saying, hey, she's happy to see that James is on and that she's feeling awful, so that's why she's not really here. And yes, Jen, Matt Fraction is still on Sex Criminals, but that's not a Marvel book, which is kind of what I was talking about. I just think he's leaving Marvel, I think.
I'm going to take a work call real quick. I'll be right back.
Sure, no problem. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of strange. I guess to tell you the truth, I don't know what the sales are on Hawkeye. I always thought they were relatively decent, but as many people are talking about it all the time. But maybe people just talk about it and don't actually buy it. I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, winning the award. Maybe that was the one thing they wanted, and since they got it.
Yeah, I don't know, because they made some kind of, I can't remember if it was Matt or if it was the artist, made some kind of quasi-snarky comments about the fact that, oh yeah, it's kind of bittersweet or something, the whole kind of, we're getting these accolades at the same time we're being shut down. I mean, they didn't really completely say that, they're kind of playing it safe because, you want to piss off your employer.
Yeah.
But it did kind of have that feel to it on Twitter to me. I mean, and maybe I just read it wrong. I don't know, but that's kind of what it felt like is that it was kind of they were playing I don't know. It just, like I said, it just felt to me like they're and somebody else was commenting on it being kind of a stealth cancel. It was just getting they weren't announcing it being canceled. It just wasn't going to be made anymore.
Yeah. So with Hawkeye being canceled and DC, I'm just wondering, is this tipping you back into the DC heavier, do you think? Or Because I mean, you're Mr. Marvel right now. Are we?
Yeah, that's what it is. No, I haven't counted. I know I have more. I know I get more DC books than I do Marvel,
Right.
but
Yeah.
my Marvel collection has gone up.
Yeah.
But I think here pretty quickly my DC is going to take a hop up again too, because they've coming in October, they've changed so many creative teams. There are some books I'm interested in picking up that I have avoided. I'm going to re-pick up Catwoman, and I'll be picking up Clarion Witchboy and some of that stuff to at least try some of those books.
That was something, as a long-time watcher, it was interesting to watch it grow and grow and grow. So
yeah. So I don't know. But there's a lot of books. I guess there's quite a few of the Marvel books I'm getting off of too. I was collecting Moon Knight there for a while, which I won't be after the current creators aren't on that book. I'm not going to go on with it. Once Ellis and draw a blank on the artist's name.
Yeah.
But once they're gone, which I think is interesting. I noticed that in some of the news coming out of San Diego Comic-Con is that whole creative team that's on Moon Knight right now are going to be doing an independent book.
Oh.
They're doing a book for Image, the entire team. The artist, Jody Valeria, the colorist, Warren Ellis, they're all doing a book for Image.
All right.
I'll be getting it, whatever it is. I don't have a clue. I don't have a clue what it is, but I'll be getting it. So.
Well, and I saw that Green Arrow Sorrentino is going to be
Marvel book.
Marvel, yeah. Well, at least is it just the one?
Is it just
annual?
it's like an annual? I don't know. I don't know if it's just an annual or.
The way I read it, I thought it was just the annual, so I was going to pick it up. I don't even like what I heard. It's this time-traveling New Mutant, and I'm like, oh, I don't even want it, but it's Sorrentino. I gotta pick it up at least. So.
Yeah, I hope that's his only Marvel gig. Because it'll be another Marvel book somewhere I'll be picking up, I'm sure, if he's on it.
Yeah.
Even if it's an X-Men book or an Avengers book, I'll probably pick it up for at least a little bit just to check it out. But I won't get just an annual. I won't just go get a random annual. I won't do that. So.
All right, I'll tell you how it is then. So.
That's fine. You come on here.
I'll get it and open it up page by page for you.
Oh, thanks. I am. I mean, it'll be awesome. I mean, I'm sure whatever he does, whatever character he's doing, is going to be cool.
Yeah.
They need to put him on a Doom Patrol book.
Yeah. Well.
I'm going to keep pushing that Doom Patrol book. That's never going to happen. But speaking of which, I don't think James reads this, so I'm going to talk about this real quick.
Yeah.
Let's move on to DC because I don't have anything Marvel. I did go see Guardians of the Galaxy just to talk Marvel for a few more moments. Yeah. I did go see Guardians of the Galaxy. If you want to see my begrudgingly old man opinion of that movie, just go check out my Twitter. I didn't hate it, but I wasn't impressed either.
All right.
I mean, of course, the things we knew were going to be funny were funny. Yeah. Rocket and Groot are great. They carry the show.
Yeah.
They have the most character. The computer animated people have the most character. When Groot, who all he says is "I am Groot," when he's got more character than some of the other characters, I don't know. You take that for however you want.
You mean the WWE wrestler didn't blow you out of the water with Batista's acting ability?
Actually, you know what? He was fine too. He was okay too because he is a very his whole gag is the fact that he's literal. He doesn't understand metaphors, so that's the whole gag with him. So, yeah, whatever.
Did you feel it was just overhyped? Was that the problem, or that too much was being flooded to you? That it's already got number 2. It's going to be the best ever. We keep growing steps and leaps.
So I just didn't feel like there was anything to be invested in it. Whereas, and I'm not looking at it trying to compare it to Citizen Kane or Godfather or anything like that. I mean, I did not go in going, am I going to see an awesome movie? I went in going, I'm hoping to just have fun because that's the kind of movie it is, right? It's going to be an action-packed, fun film. And there were funny parts, but to me there were also lots of really ham-fisted and cheesy lines in it and speeches that you just kind of went, oh, seriously? I mean, you didn't need that. I thought the Avengers movie, relatively shallow movie as far as actual really any plot or like that, but it was a fun movie. I enjoyed watching the Avengers. I mean, I just watched it again a couple days ago and still thought it was a fun movie. This one just had parts of it that just made me grit my teeth. I guess I don't know.
And then stay through all the way to the very
end. Yeah, I watched every damn bit. I watched it until the lights came back on. Right. So I know what the secret mystery thing is at the very end.
Okay, all right. Because I remember they mentioned at its first either European showing or first American that they didn't have any of the extras so that it wouldn't get leaked.
Oh. So. Yeah, they have the typical extras that's right at the end of it that if you get up and immediately run out, you miss that. And you think, oh, that was cute or that was fun. And then if you set through literally every single piece of credits, that then there's a thing afterwards.
All right.
That isn't teasing anything. Lots of those kind of tease something sometimes. This doesn't tease anything. Right. So or it's just I guess it's more like it's the funny thing, like the end of the Avengers. It's got them all sitting in the shop eating.
Yeah.
And all tired.
Shawarma.
That's kind of what this one's like. It's that sort of
Well, then to talk about spoilers but not spoilers. I know that you mentioned in your last one you don't know how much to talk about, even like when we, hold up the comic and we say it's about this.
Uh-huh.
I understand that now too, because like when we go to talk about it, and I did one, series on my own, it is tough because you want to say there's this and this, but this is unexpected. But as soon as you tell somebody that, it does, I think, ruin a little bit of the reading experience. Even if you tell somebody, you're not going to see the twist ending, or this is going to come out of nowhere. I think then people are expecting it, and it affects your experience so much when somebody tells you that. They can tell you it's mind blowing, and then it may not seem as crazy to you because you were expecting it.
Right.
Because I know when you guys talked Saga, it was you're going back and forth, and this is crazy and that. And as I'm reading it, I'm like, well, it seems a lot more mundane, but it's because I've heard your excitement level and was expecting.
Yeah, you already knew about the 30-foot testicles.
Yeah.
So you didn't get the sudden shock of that, right?
Yeah. So it is tough, and it's tough when we discuss these things here, or you talk about a movie on what do you tell to get somebody excited enough, but not to spoil anything.
Yeah.
So I definitely feel for you every time you do it.
I guess I look at it this way, and this is kind of where I've landed with that. I'm going to talk about the books, and I'm going to talk about kind of whatever I want to talk about the books. So fair warning, that may mean I may talk about literally everything that happens, or I may talk about very little. I mean, granted, I understand if I'm trying to get people to read the book, I only want to pitch enough of it to get people excited and to go out and read the book. But that's not always the case of why I'm talking about the books. Lots of times I'm here because I want to talk about the books, what happened in them, and whatever. So.
And I think that's why I like covering older comic books a little bit more, because then you can't, it's like Captain America dies at the end of Civil War. Anybody who's shocked by that now deserves a spoiler.
I am, because I haven't read it. Damn it.
Oh, sorry, Travis. Oh, sorry.
See? But that's just it, though. It doesn't matter how old the book is. If it's something someone hasn't read and you're talking about it and you want them to be excited and go read it, what do you say and not say? I mean, if you're, as far as that kind of a... So, whatever. I guess. So I'm kind of reading over comments here because I want to try and keep up on comments this time around. Everybody's impressed with my epic beard. I don't know that it's epic, but it is what it is. Let's see. I saw something from Thuggy1 and I can't get it to scroll now because my stupid thing is stupid. The DC moved their operations to the West Coast and DeFalco got fired on the spot. I didn't catch that, so I apologize because this thing isn't letting me scroll backwards. Eric is asking about the Trinity of Sin. I don't really have anything to say about the Trinity of Sin. But Sarantino said he'll be doing Marvel ongoing after the annual, but it hasn't been announced yet. So expect to be picking that up, Travis. That's from Comic Book Mom.
All right.
Thanks, Audrey. So there, whatever that Marvel book is, I'll be buying it.
Yep.
Because I can't think of what it would be that would be so awful that I wouldn't give it a shot just because I do like.
Yeah, it's going to be called Avengers Buy-In. So
they
know you just have to buy it. So.
Okay, I take it back. There is one book that they could have him do that I would pick up. That's if it was some other event book.
Oh.
Then I forget it. I wouldn't do that. But ongoing, maybe they'll put her on She-Hulk. Won't happen.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Sorry about that, fellas.
That's right. But it would be awesome if they did.
Yeah.
Where are we at?
Oh, we've just been kind of yammering about whatever, mostly Marvel and stuff. But
good, because I don't have any.
Travis revealed the whole plot of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh yeah, I did. I blow for blow, I talked the entire thing. No, I didn't. So the last thing I'll say about the Guardians of the Galaxy, I put it on level with Green Lantern. So there you go.
All right.
I thought Green Lantern was okay too. It had some funny moments, and it had moments that you went, "Oh God." So I don't know, but I think I'm in the minority because I see lots of people on Twitter and stuff just talking about it's amazing, about oh my gosh, this is like, the next Star Wars or whatever. I don't know, but.
And were you reading any of the single issues or anything of Guardians? All right.
Yeah.
All right. No, I'm not either. That's the thing. I told my wife when we go, I said, I will know as much as you do, basically.
Well, yeah. I think that'd be more fun. I think for a lot of those the superhero movies, you go in with expectations when you read the comics, and you're like, oh, well, why didn't they do this or do that? Yeah. You don't know anything about it. They're way more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Yeah, definitely. So let's talk some DC books. James, what do you want to talk about DC book-wise?
Oh, let me see what I got. So I got so much in it. You got Eternal. You guys get Eternal?
Yep. Batman Eternal. What do we think of this part of the storyline?
You know what? I like the part that Tinian was writing better.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. You think you'd hear me say that? Did you?
No.
I'm not a big Spectre fan. A lot of this story, it's just stuff that I don't really care about. I did like the reference to the cult, the Bernie Wrightson and Jim Starlin.
Right.
Many that they've done. I really like that part of it. And I like the stuff they're doing with Harper Row in it. I'm kind of curious to see where that's going to go. But overall, the past couple issues of Eternal have kind of been for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not bad, just nothing that I'm excited.
I like the art. I like seeing Dustin Nguyen do Batman again. I like his Batman. I like the ambiance and feel of the book as far as that goes. So I always enjoy it for that. I mean, yeah,
it goes with the darkness they're doing.
Right. The Spectre part is kind of disappointing, just in the fact that it's not even the Spectre right now. I mean, come on, when are they going to pop out the big guns? I mean, I understand when they don't, because I understand when they don't though, because as soon as you pop him out, it's like a game changer. Suddenly having the Wrath of God there, it's kind of makes a lot of stuff kind of a joke. Well, I guess I'm still enjoying it though. Yeah, I like the Harper thing. I like she's a pretty savvy character. I mean, they're making her out to she's more on top of her game than Tim Drake is, which of course I enjoy because anything that makes Tim Drake look like an idiot I'm all for. So
I knew you love that.
I love that. She's taking the selfie of her and the monkey. And then it's like the monkey's gonna do something to her, and she, zaps the monkey. Shocks the monkey. Yeah. So it's I don't know. I'm enjoying it. I think it's a fun, it's a fun book. I'm like you. I like the reference back to the cult. That cult miniseries. That was cool. So I'm still enjoying it. I mean, as far as a weekly book that just kind of about time I start thinking about too much, the next issue comes out and I'm reading it, so I don't really pick it apart too hard and whatnot. It's actually been
I'm really impressed in this book being a weekly how consistently good it's been. Like I said, the past couple of issues have just been okay for me, but like, okay, so like 2 issues a month of it are really good, and 2 of them are just okay. Where most comics, they're putting out 1 a month, and a lot of those are only okay. So
crapshoot, yeah.
And you don't mind having some of those filler issues because you're like, well, next week something's going to happen, And so if you get, this tease of the Spectre here for a couple of weeks, it's not a big deal. Because
well, now this part's done, right? I mean, for now, because that's been like 3 issues. So now, we've got this kind of, stuff that's going on with the Spectre and Batwing. I think we're not going to see any more of that again until Fox is back writing it. Whenever he comes back to write his chunk again. So they're kind of in this kind of cliffhanger moment. Now we're going to go back and, and probably I would assume we're going to move back to Tinian again. Is that what we're going to go to? I'm not sure. Or Seeley. I'm not sure who's we're going to go to. So I don't know if we're going to get more or if we're going to get more Stephanie Brown stuff. Because we haven't seen Stephanie Brown for a while. If we're going to get more of that put in.
Yeah, I'm really interested in that.
So I don't know. It's busy enough, I think.
And I don't have, but I'm missing like 3 issues. I'm waiting until I get the last 3 issues to read the whole thing.
Oh, yeah, I really love that run. I'm being picked on for not liking Guardians of the Galaxy now. So Eric from Logbox Review is my comparing it to Green Lantern. He says, "Wow, I'm killing the buzz." So whatever. The thing is still going to make billions of dollars anyway. I mean, it's already.
I want to watch it.
Today's Friday, and it's already made $40 million. Come on.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, so it's not like it's really. Yeah, it's crazy. Crazy.
And I think it was the largest Thursday night, Friday morning showing that they've had so far. Because I think that's the new indicator for blockbusters is that midnight showing that goes into there. And they said that's the biggest one so far. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously their hype machine did a good job to get all of us to go out, or a lot of us to go out and watch the first night.
Yeah.
I mean, to really determine whether it's going to be good or not is what does it look like by the end of the week? What does it look like the next week? I mean, do people keep going back to see it and stuff? I guess is what it's going to be. And Sherpernaut is being a smartass. He's on here and he's saying, when is the new Commandy series coming out? And how do people feel about DC now making him into He-Man's half-brother for continuity's sake? Which, of course, is not happening. Thank you very much. Actually, at this point, I really hope they never make a Commandy book again. So, not in the new 52, but I guess Grant Morrison could write one with his multi-whatever book that he's putting out. Did you pick up this, James? Did you pick up? Oh yeah, I'm gonna get it. So, kind of ties into the whole Icarus plot, right? So
yeah, I wasn't sure if it was going to. I was kind of like it did.
Right. So I know a lot of people complain about the fact that annuals are just kind of a throw off. Never has anything to do with anything. Kind of a deal. This one actually does tie into the story. I don't know if it's necessary. I mean, it basically kind of gives you a back history of to how they got to where they're at, right? But the one thing it didn't show me that I wanted it to show me, because most of the story has to do with prior to the beginning of this plot line, right?
Mm-hmm.
We still don't get seen how the woman at the very beginning gets lit up with Icarus, and I was kind of hoping to get that. How does that happen?
Oh yeah, I forgot.
We still never get that. We don't get how that happened. We get all these other pieces filled in, how kind of people are tied together and that sort of thing. I don't know that I enjoyed this, but I'm not really excited by this whole storyline though. The different art styles that are in this book, some of the art styles I really like, some of them I did not like.
Yeah, absolutely, I was going to ask you about that. But some of the stuff at the end, I really enjoyed that. Some of this, there's some of the, I'm not sure what the artist is, so I don't want to.
Right, I don't know which artist is which.
Some of it looks really 90s. and it reminds me of if you guys read Letter 44, some of the art in Letter 44, and I'm not a fan of that.
Right.
But some of it's good. I mean, probably this issue, I believe, of Detective is the last of the Icarus story arc.
The next one is? Yeah.
And that's probably going to be my last issue of Detective. I'm probably going to drop it. And that's pretty big for me to drop Detective.
Yeah.
But I just don't feel like it's always at the bottom of my stack. I don't, sometimes I won't read it for a couple of weeks because I'm just something else I want to read. Like, that's probably a book I don't need to have,
Yeah.
If somebody tells me it's great, hey, I'll go back and get them.
Right. I'm probably going to at least go through the next arc, just out of my curiosity. Is it taking a little bit for these guys to warm up to what they want to do with, Batman, this creative team? So I'm going to give them another story arc,
right.
Basically because I've kind of always collected Detective Comics. Anytime I've collected comics, it's just one of those books that I need to teach myself I don't have to get.
Yeah, I'm Batman. They could.
Yeah. But so that's kind of where I am. I'm at that point where it's we'll see. I'm kind of waiting and seeing to see what. I'll go into this next arc, and if it isn't exciting, I've picked up 30 some odd issues, and as a whole, I haven't been really excited by any of them since the New 52. I don't think anybody's really gotten a really good grip on it. About the time I think somebody might be good, then they kind of flake out. So, yeah, but I'm gonna give it one more. I'm gonna give it one more arc just to see if it takes these guys a little bit longer to warm up to Batman. But
I enjoy Manifold, his art. It's just not enough for me to stick with it. By all means, if it becomes this awesome book that I'm not picking up, let me know that.
Right. Not too hard to go back and pick up, that's for sure.
And it's not. I feel like if I don't pick up some of these independents, they're not going to be there. Is Detective Comics ever going to get canceled?
No.
It's not going to happen.
Right. Definitely. The only other DC book I picked up was Justice League. And the only reason I'm still on the Justice League book is because the Doom Patrol's in it. And anybody who watches my channel or knows me at all knows I'm an avid Doom Patrol fan. I fully planned on dropping this book after the whole Forever Evil and that whole painful thing I just done with this writer, with this team, and the Justice League in general. But I'm getting, like I said, I'm picking up for as long as Doom Patrol's in it. Kind of a different take on Doom Patrol. The Chief is not hiding that he's a diabolical bastard. He is just a total asshat in this, basically, to the people that are on the team. Whereas in past ones, he's always he manipulates them and uses them, but he's always been kind of attempts to be somewhat secretive about the fact that he's jerking their chains. Here, it's just a simple, you owe me your life, you're going to do what I say kind of a thing. So that's, that's kind of interesting and different. They changed Rita's last name. She's now Rita Starr. She's kind of odd. She has to keep a smiley face or her body breaks down and falls apart. So she's got this constant kind of dazed, like 1950s housewife who's drinking a little too much because she hates her life, but she's keeping the smiley face on, because that's what you gotta do. She has this dazed look all the time, which is creepy but interesting. Elemental Girl's on the team now. That's kind of she's a cool added person to the team. Robot Man Cliff is Cliff, and Negative Man seems to be pretty typical of Negative Man. I see. I haven't heard any announcements that they're going to be a team yet, but I'd read it if they put one out. But I don't know. Otherwise, you got the Lex Luthor is the other big part of the story, as Lex Luthor's trying to work his way into, continue to work his way into being part of the Justice League and whatnot. This cover's totally misleading. It talks about he knows one person's secret. What happens when he knows everybody else's? Well, nothing in here shows him working at getting those other secrets. The only thing in here really is him hiring on Leonard Stark, Captain Cold, as his head of security for Lex Luthor. So we'll see what becomes of that. I'm kind of interested in that story, but I don't trust that they're really going to give me a decent story out of it. So once the Doom rolls out the book,
the best Justice League story DC puts out right now is JSA. Basically, it's Earth 2. It's the best team book. I think that it's probably one of the best titles that they put out right now.
It's definitely better than the Justice League books for sure.
Yeah, Forever Evil just soured me so much on the whole Justice League thing that I just I should have bought a piece of art instead. Started with those 3D covers and went down the rabbit hole. And
I hear you.
Should have listened to you, Travis.
Easy to do. I waded through the whole Forever Evil thing, and I knew halfway and I hated it, but I was hoping there'd be a payoff at the end. The only other thing that's curious about this is Superwoman is still on Earth. They got her locked up and she's pregnant. She's getting ready to have this baby at some point. So I'm actually kind of curious about that. What does that end up entailing? Her.
That might be cool.
Her giving birth and whatnot to that's kind of that could be interesting. But
well, I did do the full Forever Evil, and Travis, you didn't feel the payoff was there. The Grayson book.
That's the payoff.
Yeah, that was the payoff. That was it. Wasn't that worth the whole Forever Evil? I'm sure if you talk with Jeff Johns, it was all a setup for the Grayson book.
Oh, awesome. Well, good for them. I'm glad they created a super team in the Justice League of America for the sole purpose of killing them all off or getting rid of them or disbanding them or changing their name just so they can get a Grayson book out of that.
Yep, it's DC creative genius right there, I'm telling you.
It's Dan Didio finally getting to kill off Dick Grayson and being happy about it. But then immediately bringing him back so he doesn't have to answer to all those fans that want to kick his ass at the next con because he killed off Nightwing. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. He's going to kill off each of the Robins. Next one is Tim, so.
Oh, that's right. Tim's the only one. That's right. Tim's the only one that hasn't died yet, right? So.
Yeah, and you'll buy the crossover, just hoping for that payoff at the end.
You're right. I would. I'd buy a book to watch Tim Drake get killed. You're right. I am that kind of a fan.
You're gonna dial the 1-800 number however many times.
Dang straight. I'll text it in as often as I can.
All right.
Got any other DC books we want to talk about?
I just wanted to ask you guys about Multiversity again. Mike, are you getting it too? Are you going to pick that up?
No.
No. You're getting it, Travis?
Yes. A lot of people don't like Grant Morrison. I actually enjoy Grant Morrison. I like a lot of the stuff he does and whatnot. I mean, I know there wasn't a very big positive vibe with his Superman, his Action Comics that recently came out. But I kind of like Grant telling these kind of weird stories, and I think that's what it's going to be. I've always been interested in the multiverse anyway. I always thought it was a crying shame when they reduced it down to one planet. So, yeah, I'm just curious to see what he throws out there.
That's my whole thing. I'm like, I don't know that it'll be good, but it'll be a trip one way or another.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. So I'll have to check it out.
See, I don't know. Because I know, James, you're looking at going to a lot more trades. Mm-hmm. Especially with like the big two and whatnot. I don't know that this story is going to have any impact really on the rest of the DC universe or anything. I don't know that it's going to affect anything for it to be any reason to have to pick it up in singles unless you really want to.
I'm just a Morrison fan, and I'll probably pick that up in singles just because I want to see it. I want to see it now. I want to be able to talk about it. I don't want to have to turn off Twitter wwhenever you get your books on Friday.
Well, I don't say that much about books on Twitter, but yeah.
No, I'm just.
Oh yeah,
silly.
But I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it because like I said, I kind of enjoy Grant's stuff. When they let him play around and kind of do whatever he wants to do, sometimes that comes up with some really fun stuff. So.
And I would probably end up picking it up in trade then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read the Final Crisis trade the other day, and I've read parts of that. I never read it, so that's interesting. I've heard that's interesting to say the least.
There are parts of that storyline I really like. I like some of the spin-off books of that even better, like the Crisis Revelations, which is written by Rudka and has more to do with Huntress, and who else? I say I like it now. I can't remember who else is in it. More of the kind of it has more of a religious bent to it. It deals more with like, well, maybe you wouldn't like because as a Spectre, but and them kind of questioning faith, why this other stuff is going on, where the world's being messed with, and you've got Darkseid and his reprogramming people to anti-life stuff and whatnot. I won't say too much about it because you haven't read it yet. I don't want to spoil anything, but I don't know. I thought it was interesting. But anyway, anything else you want to talk about DC-wise?
Yeah, I think that's all I had DC. Just a couple. So.
Yeah. All Batman-related stuff for me. So let's talk indie books. Mike, what'd you get for indie books this?
I got Outcast. So
number two.
Number two, yep.
What'd you guys think?
I think it continues to be a good story. It keeps hooking you enough. They keep telling you enough to keep you interested. I mean, there's more to the background of the main guy who, a little bit more on what happened between him and his mother. They just keep feeding you just enough information to keep that very interesting.
That's exactly it. I feel like they give me just enough that I'm like, well, I want to know more. I don't know how far this will go in the forest. Is this something you think you'll keep, or you think you'll go for a few issues and then?
I think I'm going to try and run the whole time with it. Yeah. Because it has kept me just enough with some of the stories. They just introduced Donnie, who is this guy. He just starts speaking with him, and he's like, "I can't believe you're back here." And then he starts beating him up in the street. He's just beating this guy, and the police officer brother-in-law grabs him. He's like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "This is Donnie." And the cop just starts beating the guy, and evidently has something to do with his sister. Yeah, it has something to do with his sister, and I presume it's like several adopted people under a house or foster children. And it looks like maybe Donnie was an abuser, either physical or sexual, and so the brother-in-law, the cop who's married to her, he throws in his 2 cents and then tells people, move along, nothing to see here, and they keep feeding just enough. They introduce another character in the church, nice, older gentleman dressed up in a hat, nice suit. The preacher sees him, and then later on, he doesn't mention it exactly to the main character, but he's like, just be aware that there's people out here. And I don't know if they're going to say he's a demon, he's the devil himself. But
that's what I was thinking, yeah, that he was like a demon or something.
Yeah. So, it is great. They keep answering it's like all the good parts of Lost. They keep answering enough questions and bringing up just enough, or telling you enough answers and bringing up enough more questions to make it interesting. It flows well. So.
Yeah, I get nervous about Kirkman stuff, and I don't know if this one he's doing that, but I think like he kind of writes by team, doesn't he? It's not like really he's writing everything. Am I correct on that, or?
I'm not sure. I could see that. He gives them a big outline, and then they fill in all the rest of it. I could see that.
It just makes me nervous that I'm like, I'm going to get invested in this, and all of a sudden it's going to just take crap, and I'm going to be like, come on. I've liked a lot of stuff Walking Dead, and then I ended up dropping it here recently just because I just felt like that, what's going on with this?
Yeah.
But I agree with you completely. The first couple issues have been just that right amount of raising questions and answering some to keep me wanting to know more. Because I had all intentions of picking up issue 1 just to see if I wanted to get it in trade, and then issue 2 was out, wasn't on my pull, and I called ahead to the shop. Hey, make sure to throw that in my bag, so I, So that's normally a good sign.
Well, you got to buy them if nothing else, just for the speculation, the resale value on them, right? Because it's already been opted for a TV show or a movie or something like that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and that's worst case scenario, I guess. If I hate it, I can just sell it on eBay and get some money out of it.
I have no idea. I have no idea what it's going on for eBay, and I'm sure the print run for that thing is was relatively big because it's a Kirkman book.
Yeah.
So
never buy expecting to make money, kids. So
yeah.
I think the artist also does an amazing job with telling the story. Also, I think he works really well with it, and I think that's what helps to the flow too. It seems to really make a story. So.
Well, good. Maybe Kirkman's got something new to say. It's got a fresh look on something and whatnot. I don't know. He's got those two books, Invincible and Walking Dead, that he's been writing for so long. I sometimes wonder if he's got anything else to say. So
yeah. Invincible, I have like that one too. I buy that in trade, so I'm
Is it
far behind right now. Sorry,
What's
what was that?
Invincible. I've never read it. Is it worth picking up?
Yes, I think so. It's a very nice superhero book, and then he develops it where all these other characters. I mean, it is almost like getting a Captain America, and then you could see all these other people who are going to be the possible Avengers in his big idea. I think he's expanded out his universe, so he does have a couple other options if he wants other people to start writing his books. So,
and he has had.
All right, he has. All right.
Yeah, what are they called? The Guardians? They called the Guardians?
Yeah, I can
Guardians
see
of
that.
the World or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
I mean, that was, I don't know if it's still going, but it was going for a while, and there were other people doing that book.
Yeah, I mean, it's rare that you see that strong of a superhero in independence like that, where it has that flush, full feel, full taste of a whole world.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely think that that's the one thing that he did right. He's developed a world that he's got all the explanation on, and then he can use these rules, and anybody can write now for him. So I've enjoyed it. It's just I haven't put the money to. I bought all of my Invincible on digital and only on sale, so I just haven't invested any more money in it.
I read it up to around issue 75, either in trades or in singles, and then I dropped it because and I continue to have this argument with a few people, other people I know that read it, that it changed tone. And became a book that me and my younger kids at the time did not want to read. It's a great book, especially starting out, because it's this teenage kid, he's still in high school, basically waking up and realizing that his dad is basically the equivalent of Superman, and he's got superpowers too, and he starts using them, and him learning how to use them, and all the ridiculous accidents. There's some great jokes that are in the book around his superpowers and stuff. Like, one of my favorite ones is he's leaving, like, I don't know, he's like works at the grocery store or at a fast food restaurant, and he walks outside and he goes to throw the garbage in the trash bin, and he throws it up and it just disappears because he doesn't know his own strength. He just chucks it. Yeah. And like 5 or 6 issues later, that bag of trash falls someplace. I mean, literally, it's just gone. And you'll be reading along, 6 months later, you're reading the book, and all of a sudden this bag of trash hits the ground someplace because it's finally fallen back down. Just, funny stuff and whatnot. And then around issue, I don't know, you get into the late 60s, early 70s, things get really serious, and Kirkman, of course, isn't going to pull any punches. I mean, if somebody with super strength punches somebody, a normal person in the face, what happens? Right? Yeah. Their head explodes. Yeah. And so he pulls no punches, and there gets to be some incredibly gory storylines. I don't have a problem with them showing actual consequences. It makes sense. Like I said, if Superman punches a normal person in the face, full strength, their head's going to be vaporized. I get it, and they should show that. That's fine. But I didn't know that every storyline had to show our main character completely covered head to toe in blood and gore, tearing people up all the time. And at the time, my kids were still early teens and not teens, and they were starting to get bothered by it, so I couldn't read in the book.
Yeah.
But like I said, it was enjoyable though. Those first 5 or 6 trades worth are a hoot.
And I would say that seems to be about where I quit too, where he gets the brother and all that kind of stuff. So, because isn't that right about there where develops where he makes contact with his father. You get into
you get into the Vermilion War, right, or
Yeah.
whatever they're called. You get it becomes the space opera kind of a bust them up in outer space kind of thing, which is cool. Parts of it are really cool, but I just kind of got.
I had totally forgot about how long some of those jokes did take, in between issues. And you bringing that up, I mean, yeah, I started laughing remembering those things, or little things like he'll show you, well, Bob wasn't here for this reason, and then 8 episodes or issues later, there's Bob's story. I mean, he could write whatever he wants to, and it is great. It makes you feel like there is this fully fleshed world.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I said, it's a good book. The reason I quit getting it is because of the whole, just how gory it got, I guess. What other indie books?
I got Love. Did you guys get Love?
I sure did. What'd you think, James?
I really enjoyed the art. I like different types of art. And I thought it was quite pretty to look at. Story was okay. I don't. Maybe it just wasn't what I expected it to be. I don't think it was. It's something I want to read again because I think I went into it with maybe the wrong expectation of what this book was about. And you have like these pirates or whatever. I don't know. It just.
And now they're below the Earth, right? That there was some kind of radiation.
The premise is, I don't even know if we're on Earth technically. We're on some planet that's Earth-like. Maybe it's Earth. And the sun is expanding, of course, because we all know that. We all know, anybody who believes in science, the sun is expanding, and X number of 13 billion years from now, it will consume the Earth. Well, it's not 13 billion years into the future, but it's far enough into the future. The Earth is expanded enough. The radiation is so bad, and it's so hot that everybody's moved underwater. Everybody, for obviously millenniums now, for thousands of years, they've been underwater already. To try and
lights that are sent out looking for another planet to occupy.
Right. So they've got all this stuff there. People are trying to survive, under the ocean, however they can. But ultimately, everybody's resigned themselves to the fact that they know they're not going to stop the sun from expanding. So at some point, they need to be looking for someplace else to go. So you got that part of it going on. And you got this family. This family is really what it's about. In this setting. How close, James? Are you reading Black Science?
I read the first trade. Yeah.
How close do you feel that this is like that? Same writer, different artist, but still,
it's got a lot of similarities to the family thing, and that's I think why I think it didn't meet my expectation. I didn't expect it to be a family story. That's not really what I was looking for when I grabbed this. I kind of thought this would be more post-apocalyptic in a very futuristic way, and I don't see like they have all this huge technology on some things, and then some parts of it I feel like they're very behind. Very primitive at certain things, and then some of it is super advanced. So that to me doesn't make
like that steampunk kind of feel.
So here's part of my problem with it. Now, first, really enjoyed the book. I'm actually excited for it. I'm looking forward to the next issue. I love the way it looks. I'm happy with another family book as far as that goes. I'm curious about these pirates, the whole kind of mechanized super aqua suit that is run by DNA, and it's got this whole family lineage and history. That's all interesting stuff. I don't know how much we'll keep learning about that. I think that's all interesting. It gives me enough. It wets my whistle enough as far as what the world is like and the atmosphere to go, oh, okay. But I'm not exactly sure what the story is because the way that it ends, it ends with kind of this split. So I don't know. Is the story going to be with the girls? Is the story going to be with the parents scraping themselves off the bottom of the ocean to try and figure out what they're going to do? That's the part I'm not exactly sure on. But my problem is I read this, I read this, and I read this, all kind of like within an hour of each other. So, this all had, to some degree, it all had kind of a bleed. James is talking about how in this they got some high-tech stuff, and then some stuff seems kind of antiquated or out of date. Well, that's kind of like the Wake too. It's like there's some things that are, you know, science magic, but at the same time they're throwing boomerangs or whatever kind of a thing. And then of course the black science part of the story is the family and what does that mean in this whole family. I mean, that's not the whole story, but that's a chunk of it. So they bled together in my brain to some degree. I mean, I know each story, I know what happened in each one, but I felt like they all kind of used each other in some sense or another. So it's kind of strange from that standpoint.
And I read Wake and Low back to back also, and that's probably part of it.
Right.
That's
because they're both
I would a reread.
Right. They're both this kind of underwater, you know, lore kind of a type of a thing, and so that was kind of interesting how they all kind of are all the same tone. And I don't know if that's just the zeitgeist out there right now, what people want to write as far as science fiction goes, and so it just happens to be everybody's kind of thinking in the same vein right now, and that's why they kind of all kind of land together.
Right.
I mean, they all have their own qualities, but they all kind of matched up in some ways too. So yeah, it was really strange as far as reading these all today and how they kind of blend together.
Did you understand why these suits they're in are so important?
Well,
why their bloodline is the only one that can use them? I didn't.
Well,
that's what really baffled me. I'm like,
right. I guess what I got out of it is this suit has been handed down for lots of generations. Right. Who made these suits? I don't know. And obviously, there's not a lot of them out there, kind of a thing. That's why they're stealing this one. I mean, they're more interested in the suit than they are with. They obviously didn't care about the people. It was really the suit that they were after. Because if they really cared about the people, they would have finished off the people that they hurt. They would have done them in. I don't want to really spoil it for anybody, but so the suits are obviously a known thing. There's some piece of ancient, super science, and so no, I mean they give us some kind of lore history to it, but not really where they come from or whatever. And I don't know, is that something we're going to learn? I'm not sure.
I feel like maybe if this was 3 issues in one, there would have been enough story to tell that I'd been like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? I get a better picture of the world if I understand what I'm really like. I understand what happened. Don't get me wrong, but I think I would understand what type of story this is supposed to be. And at this point, I don't really know that I understand what type of story this is supposed to be.
Right. Right now, to me, it feels like a family story. To me, that's what it feels like. I mean, it happens to be set in a science, and it happens to be set in a sci-fi kind of a world, but it's a family story because I mean, it's this whole family. We kind of get all their roles. We get I think they do a pretty good job of showing us what kind of person mom is, what kind of person dad is, how they relate to their children. We get a pretty good sense of what all 3 kids are like in this first issue, as far as their basic personalities. One's this kind of dynamic go-getter. One's a little bit sheepish. The son, definitely wants nothing to do with the whole warrior thing. He's going to be, a brain kind of a thing. That's where he matches up and whatnot. And and then what happens at the very end of the story, to me, really makes it feel like it's going to be a family story. It's going to be, how does mom and dad get themselves out of their predicament and go save their children? Which I didn't know that's what the book was going to be either. I thought it was going to be more about the world's situation.
Yeah.
Obviously you got to make it personal in some sense, but right now, what's going on in the world seems less important than what has happened in this family.
It took the back seat, and I didn't expect that. I was kind of the opposite. I thought it was going to be. Yeah, I feel like it's Black Science and Saga and the Wake all mixed into one thing.
Yeah. Well, and for me,
I'll be picking up issues too.
Yeah, and for me, I don't know if that's a bad thing. I'm enjoying it. The art will hold me for a while too, just because it's
absolutely.
It's cool looking, so I'm enjoying that. So
hearing you guys talk about it, it does make me wonder if we had a Game of Thrones comic book, how much we would be hating it, because they'd set up a family and then they'd kill everybody in it in like 1 or 2 issues, and they would just keep doing this over and over again.
I don't have an issue with that. I don't have an issue with that though. I mean, I'm okay. I'm okay with that. I mean, you know, that's what I think one of the beauties of independent comics is, um, you know, maybe they won't kill everybody, but certainly there's a chance that people die, and if they die, there's a relatively decent chance they aren't coming back. They are dead. So you can write real consequences to those deaths. So I'm okay with that. I mean, mind you, if you mow down a whole bunch of people right off the beginning, if I haven't had enough time to read about them and be invested in them, they're just a person on a piece of paper that's dead. You know, I mean, they're not. It's not like it matters to me. You know, if you have them around long enough for me to be invested in them, then I start to go, oh, okay, this, you know, man, that person dying was important or whatever. You know, speaking of, you know, Black Science, you know, James, you're not reading this in singles, right? You read it in the trade.
Yeah, I just read the first, I guess, 5 or 6 issues in the trade. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. So people are dead in this. People who started out as main characters were 7 issues in. They're dead, or at least they seem dead. Of course, we're also dealing with multi dimensions. So the character that we originally knew from the beginning might be dead, but that doesn't mean that he's dead because you know the people could show up from another one of these dimensions and fill the role. You know, this book continues to be kind of crazy pants in the way it always has been. They're on yet another bizarre world in a bad situation. They're getting ready to be eaten in this one. They get saved by a surprised person, and by the end of the book, the whole thing's gone to hell in a handbasket. And it looks like there's 2 or 3 more main characters that are dead, but by the end of this. So I enjoy it. I like it. I love the artwork of it. I love the crazy worlds that they end up in. I'm always entertained just to open it up and see, you know, what kind of bizarre thing, you know, what critter are people riding, what are people eating? Yeah. Even that stuff just makes it kind of entertaining for me. So, and this is very much a family book. I think it's So I was reading the comments for a second, but it, you know, like I said, you know, I'm enjoying it. I think it's a fun romp, and each issue seems to kind of take on the aspect of one person in the group. It's kind of told through their eyes. So the story's told a little bit differently. I mean, in the past we had issues that were told from the security guard, the guy that's been hired as security. You know, it's told through his eyes, so you get kind of his kind of military history bent on things and what he thinks is important and did he succeed or fail in his mission. You know, so this one's told through somebody else's eyes and did they succeed or not in what they were trying to do. So, but still really enjoying it. Somebody put it like Black Science plus the Wake equals low. Okay. So that's true. we are kind of saying that. In a way, it is Black Science and the Wake kind of mixed together, and that's low, but it's not. It's not at the same time. It just has some elements. It just has some elements of that. So you read the Wake, James?
Yeah. Anybody have anything positive to say about it?
So I take it you didn't like it. You didn't like the way it ended, or I know most people I saw on Twitter were going meh when they read it.
I will say this: they pulled it together to make sense more than I thought they could in this last issue. Because I was thinking, is any of this apply to each other? Whenever before I opened up this issue, I thought there's no way in one issue they could wrap this up.
Right.
They did that successfully.
Yeah, but how they did it is they had pages like this, where that's interesting and cool, but it's basically a big giant wiki. It's a big giant wiki dump of this is how we got to where we are. I mean, it's all interesting stuff. Don't get me wrong. The concept of this, I think, is cooler than cool. That there's a million planets out there that have all been seeded, and they go up this genetic chain of events, and they reach a certain point, and then it eats itself, basically, in some sense. It tears itself down or whatever. And for whatever reason, on this planet, Earth, or wherever it is that this is, something went awry, and so it's kind of a mess, and that's kind of why we're at. That's all really interesting, but I don't like getting it in this sense. There should have been a better way to tell me than this kind of, last issue info dump kind of a thing.
and you go back to the first 5 issues, one of the best things on the shelves right then, in my opinion.
Oh, hell yeah.
It was phenomenal. And then, like, as I'm picking up this issue, I'm like, did I read 8 and 9? I don't even remember what happened. It was so bad. And I like, Sean Murphy's art. I enjoy the art in it.
Mm-hmm.
But I just feel like at issue 6 they said, you know what I mean? Like, like it was never planned out. There's no 6 to 10. I don't feel like they even told a story. You know what I mean? Or didn't tell a good story. Let me say that.
Right.
And I don't know how that came from the same 2 guys that wrote the first half. That to me baffles me.
Well, they're 2 different stories. They're 2 completely different things that happen to have some elements taken from the first half, which was this kind of creepy underwater horror story, and then they dropped a few of the sci-fi elements in the second half of it, and decided to write a completely different style of book, right?
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know. And it's hard to. And that's, I think, the biggest problem I think most of us are having is reconciling these 2 halves, right? I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think that if I didn't have the first half, and I just picked up this from issue 6, where it's a completely new story, I think I would enjoy it maybe more than what I did having known what the first 5 issues were.
But you spend the first issue 6 and 7 going, what am I reading? is this the right book?
Right. So that's the biggest problem I have with it. I didn't hate this final issue. I think they do give us most of the answers that we need and stuff as far as okay, whatever. It still feels rushed. It still feels in comparison to that first half, because I'm like you, I thought those first 5 issues were amazing. Best book. I called that best book of the year. Those are the best books of the year at the end of this last year. And the second half, I wouldn't. If I was gonna go and buy this and give it to somebody, I'd buy the first half and not tell them there ever was a second half.
Yeah, that's the story.
Well, now, is this the end of the series, or now they'll wait?
Yeah.
All right,
it's done.
It's done. It's done. All right.
It's done.
Wow, that does sound disappointing then.
Yeah, I feel like Snyder. I think he's a good writer, but a lot of the stuff that he's had out here recently, I think he's overextended. I mean, he obviously has a big part in Eternal. Batman, finished up Zero Year, finished up the Way. He's got Witches coming out with him and Jock. He's got American Vampire. He's back on that. I'm probably missing 1 or 2 other things, but not everybody's Charles Soule. Like, he needs to step back a little bit,
right,
and go back to writing what he was. I mean, I feel like he's overextended.
Well, what were the editors doing?
Saying you're Scott Snyder, do whatever you want. That's what they're doing, I think.
Well, but then that's the editor not doing their job. If that's the case.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't. I mean, I understand the second half of it now, but you're right. The 7 and 8, issue 7 and 8 were fluff. That just kind of I don't know. It's strange. It's strange the way it is and whatnot. Like I said, I mean, I like the idea of it. I like the idea of the whole thing. It's a cool concept. You put the whole thing together, and when we get the stuff, the info dump in this issue, that kind of ties it all together. You can look at it and go, wow, that's all cool. But was it coolly executed? And I think we can all
exactly.
Most of us are going to say it wasn't coolly executed. Beautiful ideas, and the setup in the first half was magnificent, and them jumping ahead and then giving us this other story it just was strange.
If the second half of this story had been executed the way that the first half was, because I think we're both agreeing that the concept was there, everything, all the pieces were there. It just wasn't executed in the second half. If it had been, this would be something that I would be, hardcover, double dipped on the bookshelf,
Sure. Sure.
Be something we talk about for a long time when we suggest people, hey, you don't read comics, check this out. This is something to get you into it. If it's not super good.
Right.
I just feel like that.
Yeah. Sherpernaut is saying that on the Wake, it's clear that you had two creators who had different ideas, and to agree upon 10 issues, they instituted both storylines. Which is a curious idea. I have no idea if that's the case, but I could see that. I mean, I can see, because I mean, the second half feels more like what Murphy likes to draw. That, you know, all the crazy clutter and post-apocalyptic slapped together vehicles and stuff. That seems to be kind of a thing he digs doing. And the first half is this kind of, you know, horror story, and, you know, supposedly that's what Snyder likes to do, is horror stories. I have no idea if that's the case, though. I mean, that's an interesting idea. I don't know if I give real credence to that, but
that's very plausible. I think. I mean, Murphy's a good writer himself, so it's not
right.
It would be impossible to think of them button heads a little bit on it.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I thought the art was still great in it, surprisingly, because this issue he drew with his left hand, I think, or his broken one, because he has a broken.
He broke or something.
He broke his collarbone mountain bike crash, and broke his collarbone. So for a dude who had his arm immobilized, so he's probably would just drawing with just his wrist at most. Guy can draw. Guy has awesome art. So
must be nice to have a page of it, Travis.
It is. The good part.
Of the good part, yeah.
Yeah, I'm still happy as could be. And, you know, he just won an Eisner this year. He won an Eisner the year that I bought a piece of his art. So I figure my art has to have jumped in price, right?
Yeah.
I want to look at it from an investment standpoint, because now it's not just a piece of art. It's a piece of Eisner Award-winning art, right? So, anyway, that's what I that's what I tell my other half. So I'm not in trouble for having bought it. So, at any rate, yeah. What are any books did you pick up, Mike?
Bodies.
Bodies, right on. I picked that up.
All right. It was very interesting. I wasn't going to get it. I went into my comic book store. I flipped through it, and then the art caught me because it's 4 different artists for each time period. And the idea is that there is Jack the Ripper times, London, that they find a body, and then it progresses into modern day, there's the 40s, because it's right before the bombing, so 1940s, time period with a police officer finding a body, the modern day times with this Arab female cop and finding a body, and then futuristic, once again,
2050. Yeah.
2050. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, near post-apocalyptic kind of taste, finding a body, which all of them are now tied together because it's the same body.
Yeah, it's either the same body or it's a body mangled, mauled, and killed in the exact same way. You got you got the 2014. You got 1890s, 2050, and 1940, and so they all have their own flavor because they all have a detective coming across this body in the exact same place, torn up the exact same kind of way, mangled, scarred, and whatnot in the exact same fashion. And 2 of them are female detectives and 2 of them are male detectives. And they all have their own tone. They all have a definite feel from those different eras. And they're all found in the same street. They're all found in the same street in London. You know, it's all the exact same place and everything. So it's and yeah, each time period has its own artist. All written by Cy Spencer, but each one has their own art, so they all have their own art style and whatnot.
Which was brilliant and beautiful. Yeah,
it was really cool. I mean, because the one set in 2014, it's all kind of slick and shiny, current comic kind of a feel to it. and so it has that feel. You get to the 1890s, and it has more of a kind of a dark horse, Baltimore or Hellboy kind of a look to it. It's only a few tones and a few colors. The one that's set in 2050 is all kind of weird palette, and the character speaks really strangely. Heck, she doesn't even know how to use words hardly. Well, it takes her like 4 panels to get in her head that the body is called a corpse, because she just doesn't use language anymore, kind of a thing.
Is that it? Because it also seemed like it's because it's on the surface, it's a radiation issue, which made me think back to your Low. It seemed like another one of those where you can't be on the surface, because she got smarter once she got like inside and was able to start working on it. Then she knew what she was supposed to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a great take on that too. I love that.
And then the 1940s one has a kind of a pulpy, noir-esque kind of a feel to it. So
see, I'm not going to ask you questions. I like that.
Right.
You probably wonder why you've got a gag in your mouth. How I'm going to hear this? I'm not asking you questions.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal. But it's an interesting story. I mean, so the whole idea. I mean, the first issue, all we're getting is that there's these bodies were found in all these different time periods, all on the same street. All seem to have the same damage done to them. So, what does it mean? What's the secret? What's the mystery behind it? 8 issues. It's an 8-issue, 8-issue miniseries. I'm interested. I'm curious to see how it all ties together.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
so it is an 8 issue.
8 issues.
Yeah. So that definitely made it for me, because it's 8 with this feel. I think it's going to tell an amazing story.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I was kind of on board as soon as I heard about it, because I had heard there was going to be these different artists, 4 different time zones with basically the exact same murder, and so I'm curious as to how that all.
Yeah, I was getting it, then I wasn't getting it. I ended up not getting it. So.
Well, and that's unless you're dying to see the story right now, it's probably fine. I'm sure it'll be one of those things that'll be it's a Vertigo book. It's going to come out in a trade. Reasonably soon it'll come out in a trade, because Vertigo tends to be a pretty good job at doing that, because that's really where Vertigo's money is in trade sales. Always has been. So, I mean, unless it sells so horribly that they never make the 8 issues, but...
in which case it probably wasn't worth getting.
Right. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I mean,
that was kind of my thought on it. I was like, it was kind of a big week anyway. I was like...
Yeah, it was.
Well, and it was a small week for me, and that's what's funny is because Travis goes all this research, he orders his ahead of time, and he liked it, and I was like, no, I'm not going to pick it up. And then I get in there and I look at it, and it caught me because I think I read about it only a week before it came out. So, I come in with very little knowledge usually when I'm looking at what I'm going to pick up.
Yeah.
So I'm on previews, and then I'm online looking, and I talk to you guys online, Twitter.
Right.
Good friends with the guys at the comic shop, so I'm like, I think I psych myself out of it sometimes. You know what I mean? I know too much about them sometimes when I go to read them.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, like something like Low. I thought I knew more than I did, and probably if I just went into it and said, "Oh, that's pretty," and just read it, maybe I would have, been not so shocked by what the direction it went.
Right, and I guess I didn't know a whole bunch about the book. With in the case of Low, I knew what the cover art looked like, and I was like, wow, whatever the hell that is, I want to at least take a look at it just from seeing the cover art for it. I've been enjoying basically pretty much what I've been reading of Remender here lately with the other independent books that I've gained of his. So I figured that's good enough for me. I don't need to keep digging into it. Some things that I'm unsure of, I'll dig harder to look harder at. But then I run into the pitfall you're talking about. You know enough about it that then. And like me and Mike were talking about while you were gone, James, the fact is that we're on here like on these shows talking about the books, and if we talk a whole bunch about them and talk about like Saga, we talked tons about Saga when it first came out, talked about all the stuff that happened, all the surprises and everything. So if you're somebody who wasn't reading it and you pick up that first trade, it's not nearly as shocking, it's not nearly as mind blowing, because you've already you have an expectation of what it's going to be, and so then you start reading it going, oh, it was hyped too much or whatever, because you've got enough idea of what's going on that doesn't have the same impact on you as a fresh reader having not seen it, kind of a thing. So for me, ordering my books, it's kind of a fine line that I attempt to walk, to know what it is enough to where I want to know if I want to order it or not, but not so much that I know the plots and whatnot. I tend to buy more by what creators are on the books than I do by what the story might be telling me lots of times, just because, like I said, like with Remender right now, I'm enjoying most of the stuff he's writing, so I just kind of go, okay, it's a Remender book, it's an independent book, I'm going to put it on my pull and give it a shot because it might be something interesting. Because there really isn't any genre, for me personally, that I just go, I hate that, I can't stand anything that's in that genre, I want nothing to do with it. I agree. Yeah. I think any genre there can be a good comic book. Even if it was a romance novel, a romance book, if the right people are on it, I'm going to give it a look. I'm going to give it a look to see, because I don't know, and that's typically wouldn't be something that I would get, but I would give it a try.
Give it a shot, yeah.
If it had people on it, that I was interested in, yeah. But so
and Drumheller for me, since I'm the sole reader and writer of it.
Well, yeah.
The one supporter of it.
Rossmo's art. What do you think of that book? I've read like one issue, and I felt like I didn't do acid, so.
Yeah, no, that's definitely, it is a mushroom-inducing book. And I told him previously, I'm from South Dakota. I heard it was South Dakota, based. And, even now, story-wise, it's very loose story. Because in this one, it's like Drumheller's going to go, he feels like he's pulled somewhere. He's going to go take some mushrooms and see if that helps out his psychic abilities. And his little ghost friend says, well, I want to inhabit the body of a deer. And then it gets into this family that's camping, and they're just all jerks to each other. And then these little children serial killers show up and start killing the parents. And you don't know. And they run by Drumheller, and he's like, he's on mushrooms, so he doesn't know if it's real or not. And all of a sudden, his little ghost shows up in the deer body, and he's like, was that real? And the creature's like, no. And that's it. And I'm like, I don't understand. Not normally my thing. Not normally how I read books and that.
I thought about picking up the first grade. Is it worth?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's beautiful. The artwork is crazy. It's fun. It's $3.50. So if it was 50 cents more, I don't know that I would continue with it. But
I love Rossman's art.
You notice he's hesitant to commit to. Yes, you should read it.
Yeah, and it is.
So if you get a good deal on the trade, then And the fact that it had a trade blew my mind. I didn't realize it was selling well enough for trade. When it took its. Sorry, what was that?
Is it coherent? Is the story does it make sense, or is it just random acid?
No, it is. Yeah, he has to take drugs to solve all of his crimes, because he has to see what was the last one was, there was a dinosaur herd that was destroying a town, and these people just interpreted it as a tornado or something else was going on, and only him and his psychedelic girlfriend and his other girlfriend who's a werewolf, that sometimes they have a triad of love. Yeah, see, and so I can't recommend it to anybody. It's weird. I can't say what the story is. It's it's a loose investigation.
See, now I have to go pick it up.
All right. Yeah. It is Fear and Loathing if you were trying to solve who destroyed the hotel room. And, it's like, well, to understand what happened.
That's an awesome sales pitch. I'm all over that book now.
All right. So you guys will love it then. I'm sorry. Everybody buy the book. It's amazing.
I don't know. I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't say that. But I love books that are weird like that. So.
Right. Yeah, and it is. I mean, all right. So it is not the Avengers. It is not Batman. It is everything that it is not. So yeah,
that's
if
good.
that's what,
Yeah,
if you like.
I just worry that it would be so incoherent that I couldn't deal with it. Like, I like things that are odd and strange and have that acid trip feel, but at the end of the day, I want it to make some sort of sense when I'm reading.
Right.
And that was my fear with that.
Yeah. Has to deliver a beginning, end, and a beginning, a middle, and end, and feel like it's told you something at the end of it, not just be, not just turning on the acid lamp and having a good night. It's got to be more than that.
All right, so it does have a little bit more than that, and even now they're bringing up things like, hey, you notice how the diner we go to is always just around the corner, no matter where in the United States we are? And they're like, yeah, and now they're touching on how the little ghost became who it is. So there was some tragic event, and they're explaining that. So, yeah, there's a long-term story there. There's short-term explanations, sort of, on things. And it's trippy. It's trippy, dude. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to see if I can get a good deal on that first trade and pick up that first trade just to see now.
Yeah.
Baltimore.
Well, all right.
You're getting this, right, James?
Oh, yeah.
So now we've gone past right? You read the novel that this is all based off of, right? So now we're venturing.
The novel. I've read every one of the Baltimore comics, but not the novel.
Okay, but my understanding is this ventures off past where the novel that the rest of the stuff was based on is. So this is all a virgin territory as far as if you happen to have read the novel. I guess Dark Nate's the only person that I know, and he's read the novel.
Yeah.
So this is new stuff. I'll say right offhand, I do miss Steinbeck's art, because up to this point he's done all of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not that I dislike the art in this. I mean, I think it's good, but
it's a little different.
Yeah, it's a little different. I like Steinbeck's art better, so that's kind of a bummer. I enjoyed it. Typical Baltimore story, right?
Yeah.
Other than it's interesting because now he's got this whole group of guys with him. He's got a whole little army of guys now. All of his buddies throughout
the last story arc. I didn't expect him to be there when it's like, oh, cool. So he's still got some of his friends, I guess.
Right. Well, one less after this issue. But I guess it's one of those kind of things. I can recommend it if you like Baltimore. You've read any other Baltimores. I mean, it's more of that. So I enjoy it because I like the character.
Yeah, I think if you're looking for good horse stories, and I think any of the Baltimore story arcs can probably be read one-off for the most part.
Uh-huh.
And if you're looking for good little horror stories, I think that they're good. And I
mean, the biggest thing that runs
together also.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that runs through all of them that you may not get by just reading one bit or piece is up until the last arc, what his motivation was and why he was motivated the way he was. They didn't always touch on that, but that doesn't keep you from enjoying whatever the story is. I mean, this one you could pick it up right here, and I think there's enough there for you to enjoy what's there. Obviously these, if you don't know who Lord Baltimore himself is, it's pretty obvious right off the bat that these are 4 or 5 traveling guys that are out to kill monsters. Is kind of what they seem to be. And you could take it for that and enjoy it for that, I think.
So what do you think of the girl in here? The one that they saved, I guess? Or did they save her?
I think she's the witch.
I do too. I'm like, I think there's something to do. Like,
yeah. I think she's the witch, but that was my first gut feeling. Like, okay, yeah, she's a victim. No, wait a second, she's the witch. But I don't know. She seems pretty casual about the whole thing. Quite frankly, I'm just surprised at how either she's the witch or she's going to end up being part of the traveling party because she just doesn't blink. This horrible stuff happening to her. I mean, other than she's obviously trying to get away from it, but she doesn't seem.
This girl's got a story, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And these are quick little things. If you just want to dip your toe in, it's 3 issues and it's done. 3 issues will tie up whatever this part of this is. So.
And this is the only part of the Magnolia universe that I'm into currently. And I'm actually, I think Nate's got me talked into getting the Hellboy library editions and getting started on that.
Those are awesome.
Gorgeous books are like $22 on in-stock trades. Like it's not like 400 pages.
Yeah, they're awesome. They're gorgeous looking books. So definitely.
And you've been a long time fan of BPRD and Hellboy, Lobster Johnson, all that, right, Travis?
Relatively, yeah. I by no means did I start the beginning of any of it, but yeah, for a couple years now at least, yeah. And I just went one day. I decided, you know what? I like this Hellboy character, the little bits and pieces I've seen him. I love H.P. Lovecrafty kind of stuff. I love the occult and that kind of horror. All that stuff, just that to me is just fun stuff. So I just randomly one day started. Right on, Abe Sapien. Yeah. I just started grabbing stuff and start reading, and it doesn't take that.
Anything Lovecraft is fantastic.
Yeah.
I found it last week, I guess it was the Afterlife with Archie #6, where they have you have Lovecraft in it.
Right.
Freaking awesome. Love it.
So Abe Sapien, it's everything I've heard that you've mentioned. I haven't even read it. It was just I picked it up on one of those used bookstore sales, and it was sitting there on the shelf. And yeah, I went off the recommendation of what you guys have mentioned in the past on Abe Sapien. So.
Yeah, I enjoy all the stuff. I mean, I think that most of the books that are in the Hellboy universe, all of them are solid books. I think they may not every issue may completely rock your socks off, but I can't think of an issue. There were some issues that were by an artist for a while on BPRD that I kind of went, oh, the art, but the story was still cool. That I haven't enjoyed. There hasn't been, and about any other series, long-running series that I can think of, there are flat places where I just go, oh, I'm going to soldier through these issues until hopefully the next good thing comes along, like we were just talking about Detective Comics and stuff like that, and they haven't been, and I know part of that is like I said, it's a world that I really like. I like that atmosphere. I like that sort of thing, so I enjoy it right off the bat because of that. But it's interesting stories, and they're telling interesting stuff. You got these big monstrous things happening, but while that's happening, you've also got these very personal things happening. I mean, in the case of Baltimore, that last arc of this, I thought was really great because you had this huge thing happening, this massive evil that's out there, but then you also have this whole factor into the fact: does Lord Baltimore even have a heart? I mean, is he this I mean, he's this somehow still functioning human being, and literally he's missing his heart. It's like a stone's in there or something, kind of a thing. There's this personal stories that go on amongst this big crazy stuff, and I think that's good storytelling when you can have that, where it can feel personal but still have that big thing happening. So anyway, anybody read Cowl?
No.
Just me. Just me and Jen Jen's not here. Still really enjoying this. In this issue, you got more negotiations between the union and the city.
The superhero union, that's what that was.
Right, about the contracts for Chicago. The big sticking point is it's come out that the city wants to be able to hire non-union superheroes at some point if they want to, and of course that's a huge thing. They're talking about going on strike. And meanwhile, this other storyline's going on that there's this warehouse where all the used and worn out pieces of super equipment get stored at. This guy shows up to check it out because some of these pieces have leaked out into the wild. He opens up the storehouse and there's nothing there. I mean, literally everything, the entire place is gone. So all of their old used superhero gadgets are God knows where in whose hands, kind of a thing. And somebody's covering it up, and it looks like maybe somebody within the union is covering it up, or somebody in the union is leaking the stuff out there, so there continues to be bad guys out there for them to protect the city from. All these kind of machinations. I'm still really enjoying it. Still really dig the art. You get these let's see if I can find it. You get these kind of coolly colored, fully colored painted type panels, and then when you're having like the negotiations between the city and the union, it's all kind of gray and dreary of that, the kind of the feel of that sort of a meeting. So the colors that are in it lend to the ambiance and the mood of what's going on. Things get hot, dynamic, and fights are going on, and you get more of the the brighter colors in it and stuff.
And you've seen that through all the issues.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely the colorists, the artists use that the palette choice to calm us down or heat us up based on what's going on in the book and stuff. And set in the late '60s, I don't know, it's just kind of a fun book. Curious to see where it goes.
And that was issue number 3, correct?
3, yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And as we got this kind of main storylines going on, we slowly get introduced to other characters, and they get fleshed out a little more, as opposed to just being people. They're just being window dressing. They kind of come into the fold of the story, and we kind of get their perspective, a little more stuff and whatnot. It's been good. I've enjoyed it so far. It's been decent. But yeah. Anybody else got any other books they want to talk about?
10 Green.
I didn't read my 10 Grand.
What?
I haven't read it yet. I had 17 books to read in one day. I didn't get to them all, and this was more towards the bottom of the pile because I haven't been enjoying it as much. So
it's a bottom of the pile book. It is. I like just make Templesmith come back. That's all I'm saying. Like I was listening to Ghost Critic the other day, and he was talking about this issue, and he said it perfectly. He's like, this is basically Hellblazer when you don't have Templesmith on it. It's essentially what it is. Mm-hmm. With Templesmith on this, it just brings so much more to it. And, we talked about a couple of books this week that, hey, the art was gorgeous, but the story can't carry it. This is all opposite. I think this has a fantastic story to it, but the art can't, the story can't carry the heart in this.
Uh-huh.
And you need both sides for comics. And it's not that I think this guy's a bad artist. I just don't think it goes with this story and the feel of what we had with Templesmith.
I think that's the problem. Everybody's still looking at the Templesmith stuff, going, "Why don't we have Templesmith on it?" I think that this artist would be fine for this book if he had started out on the book. But I don't know how many of us would have picked it up in the first place. Right, I don't know how many of us would have picked it up in the first place. I mean, because I know a lot of us picked it up because it had Templesmith on art. That's why we picked it up,
Absolutely.
Right? That's why I picked it up. I'm not, to tell you the truth, I'm not a big fan of J. Michael Straczynski. He's notorious for not finishing stories and stuff. I don't have a good track record with this guy, so I wasn't too excited about that end of it. But I was interested in the fact that Templesmith was doing it, so that was what was going to get me on board. I have a question, because you've been reading this all along, just like I have. We're on issue 10 now. Does it feel like this story is someplace completely different than what it was to start out with?
Not after this issue.
No? This issue ties up more of that? Okay.
This issue really, you're going to, it pulls it together well.
Because my issue is, this book starts out with, it's about this guy who dies and comes back multiple times to help pay for his sins, and for the 10 seconds or whatever it is that he's dead, he gets to visit his dead girlfriend who's in heaven or whatever. Right. And it's called 10 grand because that's what he charges, all this stuff. Well, right. As soon as Templesmith got off of the art, it felt to me like the story completely changed. It went from being this kind of what seemed like it was going to be him helping people in his own bizarre way, while also helping himself while he's helping heaven, to this lackluster Hellblazer story of him diving into hell to help fight some war. To me, it felt like, okay, we don't have to me, it feels like, okay, we don't have Templesmith in art. We're going to change the story. We're going to write something completely different.
Well, I think it's all about him helping himself. I think the way these were supposed to be written, or understanding from the beginning, was Straczynski said, "Hey, this is going to be 12 issues. If there's another story to tell and people are interested in hearing it, we'll tell another story." So I think this was his first 10 grand story. You know what I mean? And what is it? So that's how I felt this was going on. So you get a lot of wrap up in this. You're going to get a lot of stuff that kind of comes together. I don't want to give away to you, but it's I enjoyed this issue. I just want Temple Smith to do the art for it. That's all.
Yeah,
it's actually of the past 2 or 3 issues. I think you'll enjoy this one, because the past 2, 3 have been kind of, you're kind of like, let's move on here, let's get something going.
I mean, I liked it when he first went down to hell. When he was first going down to hell, that was interesting. His ride on the sticks and whatnot, that was all really cool. I even liked it where he was starting to lose his shit when he couldn't quite. He was starting to lose reality. He was starting to become like all the other people there, kind of losing his grip on his focus. I enjoyed all that, and then it just kind of went. Then they obviously drew a line and said, okay, we're going to pick a fight here. Whose side do you want to be on? And I kind of went, oh, okay. It's a heaven versus hell slugfest as opposed to the other thing. So
he very much pulls a Don Constantine in this.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's good. Yeah, I think you'll like it.
Yeah.
You're a big Hellblazer fan, so
yeah. So Eric from Longbox Review was saying, do you guys think that once Temple Smith left 10 grand, it lost something special? I think everybody, to a T, we can all say that yes, it lost something as soon as Temple Smith got off the book, for sure. And he wants to know if anyone is reading Temple Smith's The Squitter, and I'm not.
Oh, yeah, I am.
Are you? How is that?
Yeah. It's okay. You're reading it for Temple Smith's art.
Right. Not his right.
It's only the first issue. If you're a Lovecraft fan, if you're a Cthulhu fan, you should be getting it. It's a story basically of the world has been taken over by Cthulhu, and there's the Cthulhu cult. And, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's for the art for me.
Right.
It's only 3 issues, so I mean, I don't know how epic the story is going to be, but it'll be.
It's gonna look cool. It's gonna look freaking cool. I do it. Now,
it's drawing Cthulhu. What else do you want? You know what I mean? That's kind of his niche. So.
I love Temple Smith's art. I think it's great. I think he's a great guy. He's wonderful to talk to. I don't know if you've ever met him at a con or anything. Yeah. He's the nicest guy. He's extremely attentive to his fans as far as all that goes and everything. And so I don't want this to come across as me being judgmental or hating the guy or whatever. But after this kind of 10 grand where he just literally flaked, I mean, where they tried getting a hold of him and he just didn't answer, and so he just kind of disappeared, kind of thing. And I know he's got stuff going on in his personal life. I get that, and just like anything else or whatnot. And the promised Fell issues that we've never seen. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Fell comic that came out by Image, which was amazing pants while it was coming out. I have problems having faith in the guy and buying his work now, because I'm worried that I'm not going to get to complete anything. And I think that's unfortunate, because like I said, I love his style of stuff. I love his just kind of the way he strangely applies everything. But even his own personal work, now, Squitter, I'm nervous. When he can't finish out other independent work. I mean, I get why he doesn't think he wants to work for the big company or whatever, work for the man. He wants to work for himself. I get it. He was, his name's on part of 10 grand. Even now, his name's still on part of 10 grand as being, one of the partial creators or whatever. It makes me nervous, and so I'm a bit apprehensive to invest in single issues of anything he's doing because of his track record as of late. And like I said, I don't have anything against the guy personally, but
it was right after he flaked on this book. I saw him in New York last year, and I asked him about it a little bit. I was like, "Hey, what? Didn't care for the book. What's going on? It's not my business, but I would love to know." And he was like, honestly, he's like, if it's more than 5 or 6 issues, he's like, I get bored and I don't feel like I can do it. So that was really probably the most honest answer you get. And I think that's probably the truth that if it's that long, he's done with it. He wants to do something else. and this is 3 issues. It's something he's doing. So I think I agree with you. If it's not short and something he's doing for himself, or 44 Flood, which is like him and a few other guys do a lot of stuff together, I probably wouldn't pick it up, because he's not going to stick around.
Yeah.
He told me that himself, so I'm not.
Right. Sure. Well, that's cool. But he knew that going in.
Yeah, I agree.
With this, and like I said, it just seems like he kind of flaked out. It wasn't like, he told them I'm done with this many issues or whatever. He flaked out. Yeah. Because if I would have known he wasn't going to finish it, I don't know if I would have picked it up. Do you know what I mean? Kind of a thing.
I'm sure I wouldn't have.
And so that's kind of where I am. Like I said, love the guy. He's a great guy. He's great to talk to. That's just my own personal apprehension with him as a creator on the book. It makes me nervous to go, what am I gonna get, kind of thing. So if Squitter gets put out in like some small trade or whatever, I'm sure I'll pick it up because I love his work. I love the way it looks and everything. But for me to
Memory Collector is the one that Mitten 3 did, who's part of the 44 Flood group. A lot of stuff with Temple Smith. He did a 3-issue mini a while back, and they're putting it out in a hardcover. I think it's $25 for the hardcover. Though, so you're better off getting the singles if you're doing the issue. But
yeah.
They will come out in a trade, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Or hey, maybe I'll find them in a Logbox here in a year and I'll send them to you.
There you go. Or I'll just spend the money on original art. That's what I'll do.
Yeah. Please tell me you read this. The Master.
I didn't. I have it. Well, I haven't read it yet okay. So here's the thing: is I think I know.
I'm surprised this wasn't the top of your list.
Well, normally it kind of would be, but I go, okay, who do I know is going to be on the show?
Right.
You're the only other person, James, that I know that reads The Massive. I didn't know you were going to be on the show. If I know you were on the show, it would have been one of the ones I read. So I kind of pick and choose what I read today based on who I think is going to be on to talk books with. So I know Jen doesn't read it, so it's good stuff.
Last story arc of The Massive.
Yeah.
6-issue story arc. It says, read it later and then we'll talk.
Okay.
You'll like this one.
I'll get back to you on Twitter once I got it read. I'll probably have it read before the night's over with. So
it's phenomenal. You guys read 5 Weapons?
Nope.
Its last issue, it was going to be a 15-issue deal. Well, I guess originally it was just going to be the first 5 issues, and it got picked up because they got enough sales at the same time as 5 Ghosts was going out.
Right.
Did this second story arc. Second story arc was not near as good as the first story arc, and evidently, so the sales reflected that, and that's the end of it. But it was okay. I loved the first story arc, and I think you guys didn't read that, and you can find it in trade. The first story arc, it's a good read.
It's what everybody I hear has said that's read it, that they really like those first 5 issues, and then
it's just so fun. It's something so different than what you read in comics. If you want a fun comic, and everybody talks about all the time how they want a fun comic, yet nobody buys them when they're out.
Right.
That was one.
Right. Yeah. East of West. I read East of West. Do you read East of West? Yeah.
Yep, read that.
I love this book. I don't know that tons happened in this. It's more, well, that's not true. Stuff happened to this. You get to set up war. The war is happening. The Indians the Native Americans are starting to lay down
or something like that.
Yeah, they're starting to lay down the smack on some people. You've got our Chamberlain, who he's basically going to get elected president of the Confederate States, which is kind of what he's been kind of working towards all along. And then you have the stuff that's happening at what's the place called? They're at Ground Zero. It's not called the Artemis. What is it called?
I love this right here.
Oh.
That thing is so cool.
Yeah. That's a growth. For anybody who's not reading this book, that giant ugly thing is a growth off of a guy's arm. There's actually a guy attached to that, a regular person attached
the
to
writing,
that.
the art, the colorist, every bit of this book is wonderful.
Yeah.
Frank Martin.
Yeah, there's
I was grabbing it digitally, and then they did the Comixology stop supporting image and a couple other the small ones. So you had to port everything over to your Comixology page, and I wasn't doing that. So, but I did love the first 10 issues I read of it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm going to end up double dipping on this. I actually have Rigo did a little signature sketch on my #1 at New York last year.
Nice.
And that's definitely one I'm getting ready to pick up all the trades of that, just because I want to reread it a lot. But then I love these real clean looking covers and how pretty they are. I'm like, I didn't read these, so I need to get the trades just to reread them.
Right.
Because this is something I think you can just reread and reread, and you just pick up new stuff all the time. It's gorgeous to look at. And,
yeah, it's a great book that they do a really good job of world building while being able to stick to these, like, 3 or 4 different storylines they have going in that are all kind of intermeshed and interwoven in their own ways, but still you really feel like you know what North America is kind of like, how it's divided up, how it's all split up and whatnot, in a really great way. It's a cool book. The ideas, the concepts are great, and there's just obviously some seriously bad stuff going on with the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse running around, and this keeper of the book that's that big giant monstrous thing that's there and stuff, and some really bizarre stuff happens with that in this issue in particular. Just a great story. I've really been digging it. Really pleased with that thing. And yeah, that's Modern Artists. That's one of those books I want to see if I can purchase some pages from at some point. So
every time that I see like the nation or the tribe or whatever they're called in here, I always want to hear White Stripes, like when I'm reading it. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. But it's going to be cool. I'm just really curious to see exactly what's going to happen, because you got so much stuff going on. You got war and all this violent stuff going to be happening. You got the 3 of the 4 Horsemen. They got their own thing going on. We're getting close to that well where the Child of Death is at. Death's kid. What's going to happen there? That's going to just be amazing. Yeah, are they like the First Nation or something like that? Isn't that what they're called? I don't know what they're called.
I can't remember.
Flying out of the Badlands in their Uber spaceships that are all run telepathically and stuff. Yeah, it's going to be...
I like the issue or 2 ago, remember they had the big round table where they're all sitting around and scheming on each other. Such a good issue.
Yeah.
To me, that's one of the cool things about the book is there doesn't necessarily have to be a big battle for you to feel like it was a real intense issue and a lot of stuff happened.
Yeah.
That mainly happened around the table, and you're still like, oh my God, there's so much going on.
Right. The dynamics that are there, you can feel it, so it's pretty awesome. Yeah. The only other indie book that I got read was the final issue of Fatale. I won't talk a whole lot about it because I know James is reading it. You're reading it trade, right? So I won't talk tons. Love the way it ended. I do love the way it ended. They did end it. It is done. There's no, at least with Josephine, there's no more story, really. And the writer that's in this and stuff, but ended up being a really great series. I mean, I have to admit, when I first started reading this, first couple issues in, I was kind of like, ooh, I don't know, not exactly sure, because it was one of those things that I had read enough about it that I kind of thought in my head exactly what the book was going to be like, and it wasn't. And so it frustrated me that it wasn't hitting the notes that I wanted it to hit. But I kept reading it for a little bit longer and just kind of went with what it was telling me. And it was a great book. I love Josephine. She scares me to death, but I absolutely love her character.
But
she's just
too.
What's that?
I said, but you're obsessed with her too.
Yes. Basically, yeah. She's awesome. I mean, she's really interesting and a total mess. And everybody that she comes in contact with is a train wreck. And I don't know, it's just cool.
They have the last story arc in single issues at my comic shop right now. I almost picked it up the other day just because I want to know what happened. Just picked up a file and finished it out, and then pick up the trade when it comes out.
When the trade comes out, yeah.
I held off.
And next week, Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips' new book comes out. I believe it's next week, the number one issue of it, The Fade Out. To tell you the truth, I don't really have an idea of what it's about. I've avoided reading any of the the preview things. As soon as I heard that these guys were going to go on to another book, I just went, okay, whatever it is, it's on the pull. I'm just going to read it because since reading this, I've kind of gone back and started picking up some of their other older stuff that the guys have done together, and I've loved all of it. So I know at some point I'm, in either trade or hardback. Yes, I haven't read it yet though.
Have you read that?
No, I haven't read that. But I hear it's awesome. Good. Yeah. See, so. And they just keep getting stronger and stronger. So, yeah, I'm excited for that new thing, whatever the Fade Out's going to be. So.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I just saw that they were writing that book, and I was like, I'm not going to talk myself out of getting this by reading it and saying, that doesn't sound good or nothing I'm interested in. I just put it on the poll, and when I get it, I'll find out what it's about.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm
excited about that.
Oh, let's see.
I'm going to grab one other book this week. I got the Veil.
Yeah, see, I got it. I haven't read it yet, though.
Okay. Well,
I've been shaky on this book. How have you felt about it?
I was the same thing. I've been kind of like, I got it because Ruff was writing it, and I enjoyed his writing. And the first issue kind of intrigued me, and then the last two were kind of, well, okay, I'm kind of just reading it because I'm locked into it. But then this issue was pretty good.
Good.
I feel like we're going somewhere. Of course, we have to be. There's only one more issue, right?
Yeah, is it 5 or 6? I couldn't remember. Yeah.
I believe it's 5, but I could be wrong. You see more of the rat in here, and some pretty cool stuff. I don't really want to say a whole lot about it, being as you haven't read it yet. But I think you'll enjoy it. Not the massive, but
yeah. The other independent books I picked up, of course, I haven't read yet, is I picked up Vertigo's quarterly magazine. This one is whatever Magenta is what this one is. The blue one, Sienna, I wasn't really that excited by. There were a couple stories in that thing that were interesting, but as a whole, it was kind of flat.
Is it just stories, or is it like
it's an anthology. It's an anthology of there's like 6 or 7 stories in the thing.
And they're stories, or do they
and they're all supposed to be magenta in its whatever is supposed to be magenta. Right. And the whole idea behind this is, of course, these 4 colors are the 4 colors that make up the color scheme for a printer. So they're putting a quarterly magazine, and that's the 4 colors of the what's in your print cartridge to print the to get the colors for a color printer. So that's the concept behind the whole thing. So so they'll have a yellow one and they'll have a black one, at some point. But yeah, so like I said, I haven't read it at all. I do like these things. I like anthologies. This one's got some pretty awesome looking crazy pants art in it. I'm a sucker for anthologies, and this one's kind of got all different kinds of looks in it. So I don't know. It'll be one of those things I'll talk about. If you watch my other videos, I'm sure I'll talk about it in there. And then, of course, I'm foolishly picking up this Sandman Overture in singles.
I gave it up.
I'm gonna keep getting it. It's too gorgeous to leave alone. I mean, I know this is one of those things I'll double dip on. I have the trades of all the other stuff. I know I'll pick this up in trade too when it comes out in trade.
Are like you reading Sandman in general?
Yeah.
See, I'm not. I've read most of it, and I just So I think maybe that's why I was able to.
Sure.
I don't even know if you're allowed to be a comic book fan and say you don't like Sandman, but it's
yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. It's okay. There are definitely people who aren't into Sandman now, weren't into Sandman when it was coming out, and that's okay. The art is, of course,
gorgeous, I'm sure.
Amazing. Yeah, it's just, it's J.H. Williams.
Mm-hmm.
That alone says I'm going to go pick it up. I'm going to pick it up in singles, and I'll pick it up and trade for that. It's one of those artists that just, I don't care what he's doing. I'm going to read it for that. I think it's unfortunate. The biggest thing is I think it's unfortunate that DC chose to put it out when they did. I know they kind of announced it and then thought they had to pull a trigger on it, knowing full well there was no way in the world they were going to be able to meet their own deadlines. They know that. They know that well in advance. I'm okay with it taking forever. I mean, it's kind of a joke, but I'm okay for it taking forever because I know what I'm going to get when it's done. So, it's going to be a quality product. I'll read it now and whatever. I know once I get the last issue of it, I'll grab all of the issues and then read them all together in one shot. And then, like I said, I know I'll go out and buy the trade too, so that's fun.
Yeah, I was telling Running with Comics Scott. We were talking about that book a little bit, and he's like, "Well, not waiting for those issues, so I dropped it." And I told him there's only one book that I'll wait indefinitely for issues for, and that's Frankenstein Alive because of brain rights. And I could care less what the story's about. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just you could take all the words out. Steve Niles can drop out of the whole situation, and I like Steve Niles. Not say anything bad about him, but I just want to see Wrightson's art, and that's it. That's why I get that.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of how I am with J.H. Williams. I just, whatever. However long it's going to take, that's how long it's going to take. I mean, I get it if you're trying to, keep up with the story and be invested in it. How? That's kind of impossible, I think.
I'm sure I'll find those, in a dollar bin somewhere here in a year or so when they're finally all put out. I'll probably pick it up just to read it and see if it's, because it is gorgeous. I have the first two issues. I can't remember what's going on to.
Right. Well, like I said, I completely understand people's criticism and not wanting to bother to pick it up and whatnot. And I think I was kind of following along in that conversation you were having with Running with Comics, and you saying, well, I'll pick it. I'm going to end up picking up and trade anyway. So you're right. Save the money. Just pick it up and trade. Because it'll come out and trade. There's no doubt in my mind. It'll come out in a deluxe hardback, I'm sure. Some big, oversized, fancy thing. I'm sure it will at some point. If that's what you're into and whatnot.
Did you pick up the Grant Morrison Doom Patrol Omnibus this week? It came out.
Very tempted to. I'm trying to figure out what.
I thought you might get it.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what all is in it besides because obviously I own the issues, so I don't,
It's a gorgeous book. I've seen it.
Yeah, and I guess if I want something to just sit on my shelf and go, damn, that looks awesome, it's there, but it's like $70 or something, isn't it?
I think through in-stock trades it's $75. I think.
Yeah.
So I mean, the book is this thick. I mean, it's huge.
Yeah, it's pretty sexy. I just don't.
A 1,000-page book. I mean, it's.
Yeah, but like I said, I guess I want to know what else is in it besides just reprinting all of what I already have.
Well, my friend picked up a copy of it, and I'm going to steal it from him for a week or so because I've never read any Doom Control. I think that would be the way to sit down and just go to a Morrison run or something is probably the way to do it.
Sure. Oh, yeah, definitely.
So I thought I'll let you know if there's anything that you just have to have in that.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that I won't end up picking it up at some point.
Yeah. I saw it and I just immediately thought of you. I was like, oh, Travis.
I'm sure. I'm thinking that Christmas is how many months away? I can stretch my stocking out pretty far, so I'm thinking it probably show up somewhere then. So.
Yeah, I'm looking at the trade paperback sleeve for Lock and Key. Comes out in December. Previews. It's the entire Lock and Key set, and it's all in the paperback form with a slipcase. So I'm thinking about that. I think that was retailing $99. So I mean, I'd be able to get that for $60 or something like that from in stock trades.
Yeah, James, when you were talking about giving up and getting something by the individual issues instead of the trades. Lock and Key, the Omega and the Alpha. I was getting everything by trade, and then I broke down and I got every single last issue because I could not wait. I was like, I was so happy.
Well, you know, and something like that, that's what, to me, I kind of want to move more to collecting like that. Hey, if it's something I have to have now or something I want to make sure doesn't get, get on the chopping block because we're not buying issues of it, that's the stuff I want to spend my money on. I don't really feel like I need to for DC and Marvel because they're not putting out anything to me that's really compelling. But, they're not going to change anything in the universe of Marvel or DC because their money is tied up in making $40 million in one day in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right. It's the franchise of it, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I understand that. I mean, I'm not mad about that, but don't expect me to go buy the single issues because I know, no matter what happens. In 6 more issues, it's going back to the way it was before, right? Nobody dies, nothing, major events are going to happen. So I'll enjoy it as cheap as possible, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and normally, boy, am I cheap too. But when it came to that Lock and Key, I didn't want any spoilers. I didn't want to wait. I was like, oh, I'm giving it all for this, and then I will buy the trade.
Right now, I just about did it. I still make the week's not out yet. I haven't.
Yeah, it was cool. It was a good ending. It was a satisfying ending to the to Fatale. So
just, man, I'm telling you that. I think Travis, you were the one that got me to pick up the first trade probably because you talked so much about it. And I remember you going back and forth at the beginning. You're like, well, I expected more crafty and stuff, and it's not here, and blah blah blah. And then kept talking about it. And I picked it up one day on a whim, and I read it, and I was like, well, that was pretty good, and I meant to get the second trade, and it was like 2 or 3 months later I finally went and picked up the second trade. The next day I went and bought all the rest of the trades.
Right, because then it suddenly, you hit about issue 9, and it just becomes completely compelling. It's just like, oh my gosh, what is this train ride? Train wreck, because it is. It's just a, I don't know, it's just a massive disaster all the way through it, but it's just so cool to, to watch and whatnot.
You can't look away from.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm glad that they decided to be flexible with it because originally it was supposed to be 15 issues. That's what it was going to be. He got about 9 issues, 10 issues in, and went, oh, there's other things I want to say, and so they decided, well, let's write that other stuff. Let's do those. They did a 3 or 4 one-shots in there, just kind of one-shot stories of different times, and those were great too. It was.
I love that. The grunge rock band story arc. That was so good.
Yeah.
That was so good.
Yeah. James, do you read Deadly Class?
Oh yeah, I buy that in single issues and I bought the trade. I double dip on that one.
Do you feel that it was a lot like 5 Weapons?
No, nothing at all.
Okay.
Not.
Right.
Yeah.
The only thing that's the same is there's a school with assassins in it and a new person showing up at the school, right? That's about where it ends, doesn't it?
I mean, and even that's loosely, like, it's nowhere.
Deadly Class is sinister and
it's such an homage to just all the growing up in the 80s to me.
And 5 Weapons is fun, right? I mean, it's kind of a
it's more of a. I mean, you could give this to kids. 5 Weapons. I mean, I think it would be perfect for a 9, 10-year-old to start reading, and because it's this guy who doesn't use the weapons, and he outsmarts everybody, and he sees these little patterns. He's almost Sherlock Holmes or whatever, except in the assassin school, and it's just fun. Deadly Class. Tripping acid and killing people. This doesn't happen in 5 Weapons.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, when we were talking about...
There's no animal molesters in 5 Weapons? Is that what you're saying?
There's no what?
No animal molesters?
No. It's good, though. I mean, 5 Weapons, I think, is... Jimmy Robinson, the guy who did it now, I guess, was writing and doing the art on it. and I met him in New York last year also. He was a pretty interesting guy. I think maybe he was a little bit overburdened by it. I think he had probably the 5 issues done whenever he did the original series, and didn't expect to be putting out more. And then when it got picked up, he kind of maybe rushed a little bit on the second arc. And it was still good. It just wasn't the umph of that first story arc. I think anybody that reads the first story arc and enjoys it would probably go buy the second trade anyway.
Yeah.
You know, when we were talking about buying trades from people's recommendations, I still think about on Free Comic Book Day we get 50% off trades, and there's a 6-gun series right in front of me. I'm like, oh, Travis, yeah, he talks about 6-gun and loves it, and I got original art. So I grabbed 3 of them, and I'm like, wow, there's 2 more, I can get these others, and I'm like, ah. So I just get my 3, and then months later you get through all your books, and you get done with that 3rd one, and I realize the others are not on my shelf, and I'm like, should have just trusted Travis. Should have just bought them. So now I gotta wait like a whole year.
I read the first 3 of those. First 3. So I've got issue or trade number 4 on the shelf. I just haven't had a chance to get to it yet. Okay. And then I'll go back to the shop and get the rest. But I get a really good deal from my shop. And then in stock trades, I'm telling you, if you order enough trades, if you're getting that $50 minimum order, you're getting free shipping. And so it's completely worth it.
All right.
I mean, if you get a good discount from your shop, obviously support your local shop. I think that's what, I still buy things there that I know I probably spent a little more than I needed to on just because I'm supporting my local shop. But in stock trades, I'm telling you, they've got me ordering a lot of stuff that maybe I wouldn't always try because I don't really want to pay $20 for that. But if I can try it for 10, then I don't feel so bad,
For sure.
All right. Yeah.
I stay the hell off that site because it's so easy. It's so easy to get a really big shopping cart. Just like, wow, that's because that's what I am doing. I'm like, well, I don't know if I'd read that, but if I'm getting it at 50% or whatever, it's like, oh, okay. I mean, it's suddenly when it's close to half price, it's like, oh, well, now I'm willing to dip my toe into a bunch of stuff that maybe I wouldn't have bothered with otherwise. So.
Yeah. Well, what I've decided to do with it is I put together a pretty big wish list, and I go through it every now and then and add a couple books to it or whatever. And if I buy something, I take it off. But I think once a month I'll make a $50 to $70 order and get my free shipping, and I'll have 7 to 10 trades out of that, because you can get some for $6.
Right. I haven't dropped a lot of my singles yet, like you are doing. So
well,
I have to take that. I have to take that
I'm going
step
from
first.
55 to 35. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm.
Well, no, that's still a pretty serious chunk. If you're suddenly quit reading, $10 to $15 a month, 15 books a month, that's even with your discount, that's still a pretty serious chunk of change you could invest in whatever else. So.
Well, and I'm also at the point with my back issue collecting that there's nothing else I really want other than Batman stuff, and that I mean I'm pretty complete from 300 up, so nothing I'm going to get is that cheap anymore, and it's not just like you find it everywhere, so I'm not really pursuing that very hard. So I freed up that money, and then there's a lot of stuff that I have that I've read that I don't want to reread that I'm starting to put out on eBay, and so then the money from that I can also say, oh well, I sold $200 worth of books on eBay. That goes into buying trades, and I'm getting ready to re-inherit my basement, so I'm going to make that into a library, and I'll be able to have a nice place to display my books and put some prints and hopefully some original art on the walls, and put the recliner down there and have my little area. So
there you go.
All right. Yeah.
That's right. This September, of course, DC's having all those 3D covers and doing all that future end stuff. I did the same thing I did last year. I didn't order a single book. So for the month of September, the only DC books I think I'm getting are like Eternal. I think is what the only thing I'm getting because it's not affected by that. So that month I saved, the 15 or 20 or 30 DC books I get. I didn't get that month, so I turned around and spent that all on, my order for that month is just as expensive as it always was. because I then turned around and spent it all on trades. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
so much stuff is written now that it is written for trade. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's written by a story. Zero year, Wellington did a review of it, and he's like, "Man, it read great reading it all together." And
right.
I have a feeling it probably does read a lot better. I don't know about great, but a lot better than it did in single issues. Especially the way he had a couple of events placed in there where he had to do something for Eternal, and I think there was another one that split up so it ended up being like 11 issues that took 13, 14 months to get out.
Right.
And you run out of caring at that point too.
Yep.
So
yep.
And
for sure.
It was written to be a trade.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get stuff like that. The great thing about Moon Knight that Warren Ellis is doing is it's not written for trade. It's single issues. It reminds me of reading a comic book when I was a kid, where you've got a story and it had a beginning and an end in one issue.
Right.
And they're good. I wish we had a little more of that. I'd probably buy more stuff like that was out there.
Yep, for sure.
Whenever Warren Ellis is off that title, that's my last. In fact, I think that's my last Marvel issue I'll be getting, and then I don't have anything else from Marvel at all.
Oh yeah.
So,
I'm still getting things like Magneto and stuff like that. So
I'll get Magneto and trade. I don't want to. Like, it's the only reason I'm not getting single issues, because I don't. I'm not a big Marvel collector anyway. It's not that I've been a big Magneto fan, but that looks wonderful. And I'll definitely pick it up and trade. Moon Knight, I may, if everybody tells me that the single issues are good, don't go in for it after one else, I might pick that up and trade. Ghost Rider, I enjoyed. I dropped it, but I don't know if I enjoyed it enough to get it in trade. That was the only stuff I was getting really that was Marvel anyway. I may get the Wolverine, Death of Wolverine deal or whatever, just because I'm kind of curious. If Travis says no, okay. Yeah, I hadn't heard anything.
I mean, be my guest. I'm not saying you don't. I'm just that I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. I know it's Soul's writing it. I don't care. There's nothing about that interests me whatsoever. How many times did they kill Wolverine? I don't know.
Yeah.
The only time that Death of Wolverine has interested me was back in Days of Futures Past, where he goes leaping up and and the Sentinel nukes him, and when I was a kid, and basically reduces him to a pile of bones and adamantium, and I was like, whoa. Beyond that, no, I just.
Ultimate Universe, they killed him and they left him dead, so that was pretty interesting on that side.
I've actually considered taking I've got some decent X-Men books, pretty amazing Spider-Man collection, pretty decent Hulk collection. I've considered selling all that off and putting it into some Batman, some bigger Batman issues, and maybe a piece of original art, Batman art. I've considered doing that, but I don't know if I can pull the trigger on something that big.
Yeah.
I mean, these are books like you got when you were a kid.
Right.
First Hobgoblin and the Black Suit, the Secret Wars, and
I cringe at the idea of selling my books. I've never sold any of my collection. That is, even if it's the stuff I hate. I don't know. For me, it's a personal record of my journey through reading comics, and I guess I don't want to. It'd be like selling part of my diary or something. I guess, which is silly for anybody but me. But I don't know. Something in my head says don't get rid of that stuff.
Collector has that feeling. I mean, that's the difference between somebody who reads comics and is a collector, right?
Right.
And there's plenty of people out there that read comics. There's not a lot of collectors.
Yeah.
Well,
that's true. I mean, I know people who read comics and throw them away, recycle them. I mean, literally, read the book and then it goes in the recycling bin right along with the newspaper and stuff. So.
And what the hell are you doing, right?
Yeah, basically, it's like you're sick. But whatever.
I've always, even magazines when I was a kid. Like I wouldn't throw away like I got Boys Life when I was in Boy Scouts, and I wouldn't throw those away. Like, well, what if I want to reread that? I've always been about that with print stuff and books, comics, magazines, whatever. And I'm kind of finally getting to the point where I'm able to give some of that stuff up and really focus on, hey, these are the things that really mean something to me in a collection that I really want to collect. And some of it else, hey, maybe this means something more to somebody else, or I can put it towards some of those things that I want. And just kind of clean out the collection a little bit.
Sure.
And make it a little more.
Sure. Well, and that makes sense to be, if you're going to, move some of that stuff to then turn around and, get, that other stuff you're wanting in your collection and whatnot. Because you're right, like with your Batman collection, you're getting down to pretty spendy books. Fill out your Batman collection and whatnot, and that's obviously makes perfect sense to sell some comic books to get other comic books with it. That makes perfect sense.
And I honestly want to complete that run. I mean, that's not something that in my head I'm like, okay, how can I get issue 1? What am I going to have to do to get that? How am I going to financially work that? I really want to complete that run at some point.
Yeah.
And I've got some of the couple $100 books. Like I've got 232, the Ray Shovel, and some of that Neil Adams stuff. I've got all the stuff in like between 150 and 200 that are big, like first Poison Ivy, first Scarecrow, Silver Age appearance, first Riddler appearance, all those bigger books. And so, really, it's now there's some filler pieces I need from about 150 up. I need the first appearance of Silver Age appearance of Penguin, which is 155, and then everything goes below issue 150, and there's just nothing that is less than $50 there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not unless it's piece of scrap paper that you don't
want. It's missing the cover and all the staples, and the only reason you know what issue it is because the little print thing down at the bottom that says what it is in there. That's the only way you know. Yeah,
and I think it would be cool to complete that. It's pretty cool for me. It's a cool collecting goal. I know for you, completing Doom Patrol was probably.
That's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, but but it's no comparison to having an entire Batman run. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, it's like I know guys that have a complete run of Fantastic Four. I don't like Fantastic Four. I could care less about Fantastic Four, but I recognize. Cool. But I recognize as a comic book collector and as a superhero fan what it means to have an entire run of something like that. I get it. I don't like the Avengers either, but I get owning all. If you had an entire run of that, I get it. That's freaking cool. Yeah. Those big runs like that. That's freaking cool. That's.
Hippie's getting close to this Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He's getting real close.
See, that's just incredible to have that kind of a run. It's just. That's the kind of thing, once you have it all, you just kind of go, hell yeah. I mean, I don't know what you do with it. I don't care. It's just, that's a badge. That's a badge to wear. I mean, that may be really nerdy, but that's, to me, that's a huge badge to have that kind of stuff. So, I mean, that's.
And that's another thing. I talked a little bit about original art. I would like to get, hey, it's cool to have all the issues and stuff, but at the end of the day, a lot of people can have all the issues. I want something that is only mine. It's it's this page from this comic. That's the only one. I think that would be neat. Mike, do you have any original art? Have you?
No. I went to actually just this last spring. I went to my first con, so I'm actually just getting back into a lot of this. I was mainly collecting trades until I started getting into my independents, and then I wanted to support them. And I was doing a lot of digital, and then there were certain, like Green Arrow, Sorrentino. I really wanted to get the issues separately of that, and so I'm just getting into that phase.
Yeah, it's. I hadn't been to a con since I was a kid until I don't know, a couple years ago. I got back into comics about 2.5 years ago because of. The comic community on here, and it's been great. It's been a complete different type of collecting as an adult, and financially being able to go out and be like, oh, you know what, this was a book I wanted when I was a kid that I couldn't afford,
Right.
Go get it, and
Yeah.
that's, to me, that's cool.
Yeah. No, I don't have too many. In fact, I think last time I was speaking with Travis, I just happened to find that I had two Bronze Age books, so I just put them up on my wall. And then I tend to buy a lot of those little cheap figures or Eagle Moss. So I have a wider collection of knickknacks than I probably do comics. So I too easily get caught on the $5, $10, 15, then save up and buy that beautiful $200, $300 piece of art. So,
yeah, and that's what I've done that for the past 2-3 years now. I'm trying to make that change over. Like, okay, I've got all the bits and pieces I want, so now let's back off spending $20 when I walk in the shop.
It's hard to pull the trigger, or at least it was for me. It was hard to pull a trigger on the first piece of art, first piece of original art. It's like, oh man, I'm paying all this money for a piece of paper, basically. Other than I can go, it's art. I actually hang mine up on the walls. So I mean, I sit here, I sit here every day and admire the pieces that I have and whatnot. So I do get enjoyment out of them every day. But after you pull the trigger on that first piece, then it's a lot easier after that. At least for me it was, because it was just like that first time. It's like, oh man, what am I, am I going to regret this after I get it, kind of a thing. And I haven't yet. So. And
then you ride that high. Is that it? That you get that artwork and you get it's like winning the jackpot on the slot machine.
Well, yeah, and you know what? And I get to some degree. Sometimes I get to relive it, because I'll be watching somebody else's video and they'll be talking about a comic book and they'll go, oh yeah, I like this comic book, whatever. And I'm looking at my wall and I'm going, yeah, I got that page. It's hung up right there. The page, not some copy or whatever. The page is there. So I get a kick out of that too. So it's there are parts of collecting original art I haven't ventured into yet that I do. I want to get a little more serious about particular artists and particular pages that I want, kind of thing. And you start getting into that, and then it can get, then we start getting serious money. We start talking $1,000 or something, then it starts. For me anyway, that's serious money. That's not something I walk into a con and calmly drop that kind of money on a single piece of anything. It's why I don't collect a lot of old comic books, because I just have a really hard time spending, hundreds of dollars on a single issue. I have a hard time
you still have a family, yeah.
Right. I just have a hard. Well, and there are other things I like to do in life, and I just think about. Sometimes I think about, okay, so I spend $200 in this comic book. It's 20 to 30 pages. It's old. It's musty. I'm going to read it once, and then I'm going to put it away in something. I might pull it out occasionally, but I'm going to be apprehensive because it's so old and whatever. And I'll be able to say I have it in my collection, but I could spend that $200 on, I don't know, a lot of other stuff. There's a lot of music. There's a lot of other books. There's a lot of other, stuff I could spend that money on. So I have a hard time with comic books, but for some reason with art, I don't necessarily. But I still want to get into. There are particular old.
You get to display the art.
Right. There are some old artists that I want to own some work of. Some of those artists I don't. Some of those artists, right? I don't care so much what it is. I would just like to own a piece. And then there's some stuff in particular I want to own. I want to own some things, like I want to own some Jim Aparo Batman stuff. I don't, not just any Jim Aparo, but I want some Batman stuff.
Well, Travis, what's your opinion then on signatures? Because I've seen, the person that pays however much for Stan Lee's signature. I mean, I guess I'm not that crazy about signatures.
I have lots of signed books that I go to cons and I have signed, and I enjoy that for my own personal collection. I'm sure that signature means nothing to anybody else. As a matter of fact, if you don't know whose signature is and you don't know officially that the book's been signed by them, it actually degrades the book. I mean, the book, if you're worried about grades and value of the book. For me personally, for my own collection, I like having the books signed. I like going and getting the book signed because it's a way for me to have a conversation, another way for me to have a conversation with the creators, and I'm interested in that. I'm interested in talking to those people. Would I pay $50 to have Stan Lee sign my book? No, unless I owned, amazing,
All right, yeah.
number 50. If I owned that, I would go and get it signed. If I had the opportunity, I would pay Stan Lee the $50 or $100, whatever it is, to have him sign it, and so I could then turn around and seal the thing off somewhere so I could have it framed or whatever, so I could enjoy it for that. That makes sense. I guess.
All right. And that's what I was kind of wondering, because when I heard your other videos, it really seemed like it was more the interaction with the person that. All right.
Yeah, I don't get anything signed thinking that it adds some value to it. Other than me personally, it adds a value to it in the fact that I can go through my collection. I can pull out. I love my issue of Detective Comics with Batwoman in it, and I literally have everybody signed it. The writer, the artist, the colorist. The only person that hasn't signed it is the editors. I mean, I've got the letterist has signed it. It's got a backup story in it, and the backup artists and colorists and whatnot have all signed it. That's cool. To me, that's cool. It's because it's part of my personal history of reading comics. It's not that it adds any value of any sort. But you're right. The biggest reason for me is I use it as a way to have a conversation with the creators.
And I think that's the thing too with me is the cheap part of me now. The thing that I found that I really, really like is sketch cards, because it seems to be just the right price range for me. It gets me just enough contact and discussion with them, and I'm just getting my foot in with a lot of these people, so I don't really know much about most of them, and especially when I meet new artists that are trying to bust into the industry. Then it gives me something really weird or interesting that's unique also at some points. So that's my new geek focus, evidently, is sketch cards. So
yeah.
Met Riggs Morales Free Comic Book Day, not this past year, but the year before, and he was doing free sketches, and so he did a Batman sketch on the Detective Comics sketch cover for me. Which was really cool. And I enjoyed that, and it was free to do, so you can't beat that.
Right.
And a real nice guy. He did it for a free comic book. He sat this to my local comic shop. He sat there for 10 hours and just did sketches and signatures, and it was mostly kids. And it was really, I thought that was really cool. That's what you want to see from somebody in the business. And then I was pulling through books, so I thought you guys might want to see this. This is Revival #1, and then that's
Seeley and Norton.
Mike Norton, personalized to James, and then Seeley, and I think that's cool too. When you get to meet the creators at the cons, and you get this, hey, I really like your work. This is what I got out of it. Is that what you meant? I think that stuff's fun. To be a fan and geek out a little bit,
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Well, I think we've gone long enough. We've kind of meandered off into all kinds of stuff. Enjoy talking with you guys about all this, but we're going to shut this down because it's got 5 viewers. There's still 5 people hanging in with us, but I don't know how, if we're going to watch it this long. But yes, thanks for hanging in, just listening to us babble about whatever beyond comic books. But I enjoy talking about every aspect of it, so it's all good to find out what other people are doing and how they want to collect, and does that make sense or make sense for you or whoever and whatnot. So it's always good to hear what other people want to get out of collecting and stuff. Sometimes it's good to help at least me have focus on what I'm doing, because it's a big thing, and it's easy to get lost wandering amongst a whole bunch of stuff and whatnot. And, not that there's anything wrong with that too, exploring what's out there. But anyway, thanks you guys for coming and talking comics with me tonight. It's good to see you on, James. Hopefully you can make it again sooner than another 6 months.
Yeah, I should be able to now. Things are a little bit more common working at home, and the baby's not on a little more of a schedule now. So
yeah, awesome. And as always, Mike, good to have you on.
Always great to be on. Thank you very much.
And hopefully Jen gets better. So next week we can get her back on. She's been gone for a couple of weeks now, and we can talk some comic books with her too. And if you're interested in being on the show, just get a hold of me either through YouTube or Twitter or whatever, and we'll get you on.
And Travis, you do ask the 3 questions, right? How many zombies have you killed? How many real people have you killed? And why?
Yeah, I guess I do ask questions like that, I guess.
Yeah, the Walking Dead reference.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, so anyway, have a good night, everyone, and thank you for watching, and we'll hopefully see you next week. Goodbye.